Aha, good evening, Warband. Welcome, welcome, welcome to part two of this Red Pill Cult Meeting series. As you can see, tonight at least, I am appropriately dressed in the red robes. I hope everybody brought their own. Let's see who we got in the chat. Mile High Ronin, Connell McCracken, Sergeant Grinch, Sai, Big Papa Monk, and just some random things. Welcome, welcome, everybody. All right, so before we get into it, opening shill. If you want to support the channel or have a message that you want read out as a super chat, just click on the Streamlabs link down there, pinned at the top, and I am looking into getting some more alerts. So if you have suggestions for sounds that you'd like to be able to throw $1 at me and play, let me know, as I can probably make it happen. Are we going to sacrifice? Oh yes, Lego Bago. And it is an extended sacrifice because we are sacrificing the career of Sean, aka Think Before You Sleep, piece by piece. And tonight's menu begins with male cucks are the root of evil. There we go. Get it nice and full screen so it looks a little better for the presentation. No, Connell, I'm not quite on the level of the UCW show. This is the Red Pill Cult Meeting. I saw the soundboard or song growth. Yeah, closer to a soundboard. Think along the lines of like Twitch alerts or Hammer's sort of soundboard thingy. Still working it out. Got some ideas, but not sure what's going to work and what's not. I've been a little busy to try and install anything else. Gray's cutting off fingers. Oh, no, no, no. This isn't cutting off fingers. Like, that's too much all at once. You see, this is more so when you want to take someone apart piece by piece, and all you have is a potato peeler. But we'll try to get through these fairly quickly, because I am aiming to make these episodic segments. Let's just see. We can chat for a little second before we get into it. Hear about Tate getting lung cancer. I saw the headline on Romanian TV. I don't know the details. It seems a little weird because, on one hand, like unfiltered cigars, yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, it turns out to be false and his lungs are intact. But again, that makes a little more sense because, like, I mean, yes, non-smokers can get lung cancer, but Andrew Tate's hardly the kind of guy you'd think, oh yeah, that's a prime candidate for lung cancer. Meanwhile, the guy who smokes 20 cigarettes a day and works in a very unfriendly environment for your lungs, yeah, he's totally fine and he's been doing it for decades. Like, I don't know. Tate just doesn't seem like the kind of candidate for it. Hey Frost, welcome. Good to get a mod in the chat. Look, could probably. Actually, you know what? Everyone, everyone celebrate just some random guy getting his wrench. If we're gonna get more people, I'm gonna need more mods. So, just some random guy. Welcome to the mod squad. Yeah, Frost. Oh, deadlifts. Yeah, I gotta. Well, I'm sure you know a lot about lower back injuries because I've had my share. But damn, man, hope it's nothing too bad and you recover quickly. The Rose got cancer is coming. All right, yeah. To be fair, like, where can't you find something cancerous these days? Yeah, mod lives matter. Hey, remember, we haven't quite given up on only mods. We just need to work out a way to actually go through with it. Hey, Real Talk, welcome. Tate Tate smuggling diamonds in his booty hole. Wow, I mean, I'd appreciate the dedication, and given how small diamonds are, you can fit a lot of them up there. Although, little known fact, it was originally coal he was smuggling up his booty hole, and then he just squeezed. Oh boy. Cancer could afford his course. That's the thing. The cancer got to him. Was thinking like, hey, this might be a good place to settle down. Oh my god, these prices. And for what? No, 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 no. No. Also, guys, quick mic check. How do I sound with this? Because I'm regularly popping into the red here on the voice meter. So if it sounds off, let me know. I've tried. Wait, no, did I actually tone it down and save the settings? 2 seconds, gentlemen. Oh no, I did not. I got to turn this down just a little bit. Save these new settings. That real quick. There, I think that, no, that looks way too quiet now. Set it to there, perhaps? No, okay, because when I was looking through this later I was looking through the last stream to cut it up. It was just way, way too loud. Sorry, Okibot JK. Whoa, whoa, man, Latopia. You too many comments like that, mods are gonna jump down you. Mike's good, sounds good. Okay. Alright, well, I took it down 3 decibels so that it hits the yellow more than the red, because it just sounded way too loud, separate from the main. Actually, I'm also going to turn the desktop audio up just a little bit. Since this is an Elden Ring, so then I'll be pausing the video. So, slight sound adjustments live on it. I know you guys are good with it, but I do need to get a little more professionalism here. Okay. 10% Ghost of Kiev. Hey, look. If the Ghost of Kiev wants his 10%, take it up with Trudeau, all right? I'm pretty sure that Trudeau's got your 10% that he took off of me. Because unlike a whole bunch of Twitch thoughts, I'm probably going to have to report my income as taxable. Alrighty, well, thank you everyone. We got about 20 people in the chat right now, so let's get ready to start the segment. So, episode 4 of the Think Before You Sleep archives. Male cucks are the root of evil. Let us begin.
I just had an epiphany today watching one of Stefan Molyneux's live streams, and I'll throw that in the description so that you can see the full-blood argument of that if you would like to, especially if this is like you're viewing this way later, because it'll be hard to find this. It's a New Year's live stream, so you type in New Year's live stream 12/31/18 or something like that. Well, I guess that would help you find it, but I'll throw that in the description to make this easier for you, because in this live stream he says something that's particularly important, and maybe I only perceive this because I've been listening to the MGTOW message for 3 years at least, mainly through like Sandman or Turd Flinging Monkey or DDJ recently, or Misogyny Today is his channel. And because I've been listening to this, I've heard some of their arguments for how we fix society. Well, one of the ways that we can fix society is we can just stop stepping up to the plate and taking the hits in the courts, and we can just say no, and that could very well do it. But at this point, I don't think that's strong enough. After hearing this live stream, I think we have the answer. I think Turd Flinging Monkey probably has the answer. Maybe he just didn't articulate it in a way that I could fully get what was being said. But I think from what he said before in his videos, I think he's got it. And I'll just kind of iterate what the problem is after listening to this podcast. You see,
all right, so we'll get to his point in just a second, minute and a half in. He used to be way more humble. Like, you compare this to who he is right now, at the very least, like, he's showing some humility here, acknowledging, hey, these are the guys who put the message out. And yeah, 3 years of listening to the MGTOW message. And then he made this video. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the exact date for this. The archives didn't have that information. But we can assume that this was about 3 years ago. So 2020, maybe late 2019. So apparently he's been listening to MGTOW stuff since 2016. So yeah, 3 years. So yeah, so at least 5 or 6 years was when he actually started listening to MGTOW stuff. And given, let's see, so right now I think it said that he's 32. So that would mean that he's been listening to MGTOW stuff since he was 26, 27. All right, keep going.
Male and female attraction is not equivalent. They're different. And you can think of it this way. So on a scale of 1 to 10, because women don't entirely care about physical attractiveness. They do, but they'll take a guy who's rich over a guy who's physically attractive. And, of course, it's not always going to lead to a perfectly happy marriage, but
for marriage, very distinct difference to make right there. Women will take a man who is rich over physically attractive for marriage. But women are not the gatekeepers for marriage. They're the gatekeepers for sex. So then you have to ask, which maybe he'll get to, would women rather have sex with a guy who's rich but ugly or broke but hot? Chat, I'm sure you know. For the audience, maybe cast your votes now while we listen to the next segment.
It doesn't matter how much money a female has. A man's not going to accept her if she's unattractive. Or at least most men wouldn't, but most women will. So in this case, what happens is you have men who work on an absolute scale. So a 1 is a 1, a 2 is a 2, and all the way up to 10. A 10 is a 10, and an 8 is an 8. But women work on a relative scale. So a 1 is not always going to be a 1. Like, so if you have a man, like a woman with this certain features, that's always going to be an 8. But women base their 7 or 8 based on how much people are making. So if everybody is making $1 per hour, a guy who makes $5 per hour could be your 10. Now, of course, $1 an hour is not very much, but again, she wants the relatively best male, while men just kind of want someone to breed with. Be a little bit more blunt about that.
So you're comparing the kind of women that a man would want to sleep with versus the kind of men that a woman would want to marry. These are kind of false. That's not really an accurate comparison. Because like a man will absolutely sleep with an ugly chick. Like, he may not want to do it, but it's a slow Tuesday night. Like, you can get 4s hooking up with 9s or 10s if they happen to catch them at the right time. And I'm talking a female 4 with a male 10 or a male 9. Whereas, like, to women, like, I even caught today that there was a study done, and if a man who sees a woman that he's not attracted to, he'll feel mildly annoyed. Whereas if a woman sees a man that she's not attractive to, she just doesn't even perceive him. No emotional response. It's like he doesn't even exist. So, you putting this stuff on a scale, like if you're going to compare, like, the preferences of men and women, you have to be more specific. You have to say, well, we need to compare the kinds of people that men and women want to sleep with, and then we need to compare the kinds of people that men and women want to marry. Because those people are not necessarily the same. Like, use Chronic as an example. He's got no problem going for unchaste women when it comes to bedroom activities. He ain't gonna marry them. That's a hard limit set. So, let's keep going. Not even 3 minutes in.
So the problem comes in. So everybody's making $1. You have a couple people making like $5. It's not a big deal. You're not that dispersed. You've got one person making 5 times as much as you, and maybe a couple people making twice as much as you. But for the most part, you still have a fair shot. But the problem comes in is when you have a capitalist system or a free market. Let's call it free market, because capitalism is like government control for the market, which is not really free.
Capitalism does not involve government control. Like, okay, like there's the leftist coming out in him. Is like, no, capitalism as a system is not government control. It is very little to no government control. What you're talking about is a mixed economy, which is what the communists currently call capitalism. So, research, because otherwise you sound like a fool.
Because then you get corporations, and corporations can buy land subsidies and shit like that, and get tax breaks and get all these unfair advantages that allows them to monopolize the market.
Again, that's a mixed economy, not capitalism.
Which has been done over the past 50 years or so, which is why I don't like the system we're in. I don't. Capitalism is the wrong word. Free market is the correct word. Let's just leave it at that before I go on a big.
No, capitalism and the free market are the correct terms. You're just using capitalism in the wrong context here because you don't understand what you're talking about.
Irrelevant rant. But when you get free markets, the problem is that free markets are relying on competence, and when you get competence, when you get intelligence, intelligence is millions of times better than just brute strength. And so I can, if I'm in nature back 50,000 years ago and I'm the strongest, biggest guy, I'm going to win every fight. But if I'm the smartest guy and I have some time and I have some investment, I can make a nuclear bomb that's going to blow up every single tribe in the vicinity, and I'm going to be the king and the leader at that point.
You're going to make a nuke 50,000 years ago because you're the smartest caveman among cavemen. No, like, okay, I can understand. Yeah, you're being hyperbolic here. But you got to actually face reality a little bit. If you're back in the caveman era, like no electricity, I mean, let's go far back enough. Let's say, Göbekli Tepe, kind of, where it's Stone Age. We got Stone Age, but maybe we got some agriculture. Yeah, guess what? You could be the smartest guy in the area, smartest guy in your tribe of 1,000 people, let's say, maybe 10,000 people. Bit of prep time, bit of resources. No, you're not going to get those without the strong people. When it's Oonga da Boonga, the strongest person is the one with the most resources. What the smart people do is they have the ability to make the effort put in by the strong people to be more effective and more efficient. So a highly intelligent leader or a highly intelligent consultant can maximize the strength of his fellows, but 1v1, nah, the meathead's gonna win. You're not going to invent some super weapon in the Stone Age. I think you'd be hard-pressed to do that in the Bronze Age. And heck, when we did make a nuke, that wasn't one intelligent person. So no, you're not going to make something capable of taking out a tribe in whatever era you have as an individual who's just really smart. And even if you were intelligent enough to make it up, which would make you more intelligent than a team of the smartest people on the planet several decades ago, you'd also have to acquire all the resources for it. And how are you going to get all those resources by just being intelligent? Like, definitely one of your dumber takes, and we are only 4 minutes in. Continue.
And so strength is good, but intelligence is gonna beat you by a factor of 10 or a factor of 100 or a factor of 1,000. It's like if you play a Dungeons, now all the classes are balanced in like modern video games, but if you play the old games, Dungeons and Dragons, if you could survive as a wizard or survive,
Whoever the heck says modern classes are balanced in video games, no. No, they are not. Not all builds are equal, and anyone who has even begun to look at how to break a game can do it. Like, my build in Elden Ring, for example, apparently there is a build that can use the same weapons that I'm using right now, and they can one-shot the entire game and get powerful enough to do that in 10 minutes. No, like, you can absolutely break a game with modern classes, so I'm willing to bet that this guy does not play much in the way of video games or RPG systems. Any true dice goblin knows how to min-max something OP.
as a mage, level 1's hard. Fighters are always gonna have advantage there, but if you make it like level 15, level 20, or God forbid, like the one person makes it to level 30, because that's like that's like being a billionaire and being a level 30 mage or something like that. You are going to be hundreds of times more powerful than a fighter. So like a fighter can take out one person at a time, maybe like two per people or per round or something like that. A level 20 spellcaster could blow up a whole town. So intelligence.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that a level 30 fighter can still punch a level 30 mage and turn him into a bloody mist. Like, just because you've got a powerful AoE effect does not mean that you're that much more. You're a glass cannon, okay? And hey, I like the mage build. I like the thief builds. I like my utility builds. But the mage is not inherently better than the fighter, because the mage still has to, be protected. You put a mage and a fighter on a 1v50, the mage is, like, he might get a spell off, he might take out half, but as soon as the enemy closes with him and starts taking chunks out of him, he's going to go down pretty fast. So, yeah, like this D&D metaphor for intelligence, you're going under the assumption that the mage has ideal circumstances. And that's the main thing. With intelligent people, they'll thrive under ideal circumstances. You put them in a shitty situation, their survival rate drops because they're weak.
This can be vastly, vastly more powerful than actual strength, which becomes a problem because when you have an intelligence-based society as opposed to a strength-based society, because communism is a brute force and strength-based society, which is why it's not effective.
What? What? Communism is a strength-based society. Really, the society, the government type invented by a whole bunch of fucking writers and philosophers sitting at their desks with no actual life experience. That is a brute force strength-based society. The society that discourages strength and encourages weakness unless it is in direct serving of the ruling class. Really? That's a strength-based society? No, it's a fucking intelligence-based society, because everyone there is trying to manipulate each other to get to a higher position of power and do as little work as possible for maximum reward. Holy balls. Next.
What's one of the many reasons why it's not effective? Because when you use force, you're not using it as effective of a tool. You want to use intelligence. But when you bring intelligence into play, you're not just having someone who makes, you're not making $1 an hour and someone's making $5 an hour. You're making $1 an hour and the next guy's making like $100,000 an hour. Or something like that. And so that creates this massive polarization of men that are average versus men that are like super, super attractive.
guess what? If a strong man is making $1 an hour and the intelligent man is making 100,000 an hour, you're going to need a bunch of other strong men guarding the guy making 100,000 an hour, or the strong man is just going to take it from the weak man. Like, your metaphor falls apart as individuals acting because, again, you're assuming that they're in a society which is protected not by intelligent men, but by strong men. Or at the very least, enough dim-witted idiots who are willing to sacrifice their freedom in order to protect the ruling class.
And women are perfectly... Men are not fine with it. I guess they are. But most men would settle for one chick. Most women want to date like the same. Like, you have that what was that? The OkCupid survey. I hope they do more of these.
Oh, gentlemen, now we're getting into the OkCupid survey. This might actually be worth isolating later to see how his views changed over what? 4 years, 3 years? However long ago we made this video, considering his recent comments on the OkCupid survey. All right.
There's probably more out there that I'm just not aware of, where it's like women on OkCupid rated 80% of men below average in attractiveness. So it seems to be, and especially this is the case, that women's scale is attractive, so they'll be fine just idolizing this one person who's the most attractive, and they'll kind of leave everybody to the side. While men will kind of be a little bit more leveled about it, where it's like, okay, this is a 7, this is a 6, this is an 8, this is a 9. Whereas women, the scales always change. Because that's, this is probably not the right word for it. The men are on the strength-based system, and women are on the intelligence-based system. So,
okay, I didn't pause that. He just had dead air, but excuse me while I pick my lower jaw up off the ground. Okay, so let's just try to dissect this because that sounded stupid. So, men are on the strength-based system, women are on the intelligence-based system, because women disregard most men and rate 80% of men as below average. And that puts them on the intelligence-based system. I guess what he was trying to say is that intelligence scales exponentially and strength scales linearly. So, and on an exponential scale, if you had a system where it's like, okay, well, where does everyone rate? Then, okay, yeah, you'd see most men, be technically below the 50% mark due to exponential growth. Whereas men working on linear, they don't see as much, there's not as much difference between a 6 and a 7 for men as there would be on a 6 or a 7 for women. I think that's what he's trying to get at here. Sean, you seemed a lot more intelligent before actually had to, think about what the heck you were saying and give responses every couple minutes. Because, this take is either very, very stupid or very, very poorly explained. And I'm willing to bet that if you did a response to this right now, you just say I hadn't done enough research and wouldn't go on to elaborate. Anyway, we'll see if he manages to go a little bit further in this, but I have my doubts. This is just sounding like a bunch of frickin' gobbledygook without any actual solid stuff to back it up. And hey, Chad, if I start speaking in a gobbledygook way, please tell me I'm not making sense. At the very least, I know you guys will hold me accountable if I'm speaking like an idiot.
That's why free markets are having a problem right now, because there's a fundamental problem with that. The fundamental problem is not money, because we're all, holy shit, we are way richer. I could never go back. I couldn't go back and live as a king back 1,200 years ago. No fucking way. I'd be the poorest person today. I'd rather be the poorest person in America than a king 1,200 years ago. Because at least I still got a cell phone. At least I still got running water. At least I still got electricity. At least I still have guarantees of food. When the fuck is America going to run out of food?
You really think that the poorest men in America today have a guarantee of food, have a guarantee of a working cell phone? Like, I mean, like this was 3 years. Like this was not. Well, this was his fourth video. So he hadn't really taken off. Oh shit, he definitely hadn't taken off by this point. But that's the thing. He had the ideas, but not the information or the thorough thinking. Uh Connell, are these recent videos since getting with Venti? No, these videos that we're reviewing right now, these are his first videos ever. I'm going through these in chronological order as found in the archive since the very beginning. So this is his fourth video that I've been found uploaded to the archive. So I believe that this is his fourth video that was ever on his channel.
You can go and dig in a garbage can and still eat a full meal, out of a restaurant or something like that. So things are way better than they were before. The poorest person lives better than a king because of intelligence. But the problem is, the poorest male does not have the sexual marketplace value of the richest man. So if I'm talking about sexual marketplace value, of course I'd rather be a king back in the day because I'm at the top of the food chain, where as I'm at the bottom of the food chain here. So that's where the inequity really comes around. And that's the problem that we need to solve, and that we had the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is not like morals, and we have certainly morals and all this stuff and rights and crap like that. If you're not playing on a field that people agree to play on, then it doesn't matter what all the rules are. If you're not playing a game people want to play, who cares about, how many... God, I don't know. It's funny because I graduated with a degree in kinesiology, but I don't know that much about sports or much about the rules of sports, enough to just think of a reference off the top of my head. Who cares how far one of the baseball players leads forward before the pitcher pitches or whatever, if he's going to try to steal the next base, if you're not even in agreement with what type of field should be played on, or how the ball should be hit. Should be hit with a bat or a tennis racket or something like that. So all these little semantics don't matter. The big...
Honestly, that metaphor is kind of weak. It's like, hey, why should you be playing the same game when one guy decides, you know what should be legal right now because I say so? Firearms. Hey, seriously, imagine a game of baseball, but one team decided to bring a Glock. That'd change the game up, and hey, maybe people wouldn't fall asleep watching it, but I digress.
The big thing that matters is social status. The big thing that matters is I'm not going to be able to reproduce because I don't have enough status. And that's a crisis. So...
Okay. Yeah, but social status only translates when other people respect that status, and that status can be translated. Like, you can be high status, but by what metric are you going to turn that into the resources, which is what women actually want? Like, Tom Cruise might be a high status male, but he's also got a shit ton of money and a lot of people willing to back him up, hand him over money, or do things for him in exchange for some kind of alternative favor. Like, quite frankly, you take away Tom Cruise's money and connections, like, if you canceled him and froze his bank account, most of the women who would want him today would view him as absolute hot garbage. Am I wrong, chat? Keep going. Try to get through this in under 40 minutes.
The great revelation about this, and you can say this, and because these men are not going to be able to reproduce, they're going to start acting in different ways. They might not be able to articulate like this. Like, I've been thinking about this for 3 years, and I have not been able to articulate this point until today. This is the problem. This is the problem with free markets, and because we can identify this as a problem, we can actually solve it. It's because what'll happen is, maybe I'll explain it this way. I was listening to a video by Karen Strong And I'm sorry, I don't know what video it is, so I can't throw it to you. I'll just have to explain it as best as I can because it's one of her older videos. It's like a 2015 video. So I was listening to a video by Karen Strong where she was talking about a guy at work who liked a female coworker. And this is one of those women who knew she was attractive, which all women who are attractive know they're attractive. They may lie about it, but everybody knows their number, whether you're male, unless you're just so socially awkward that you don't have any perception. Then the answer is probably like 3 or 4 is her number. But every woman knows her number because guys are constantly telling them what.
The point, please. I mean, I can see why some of the early advice on your channel was you need to script out what you're gonna say. I mean, I sound rambly here. Even I can recognize that. But I'm doing this live. Like, you have a pre-recorded video here. So, yeah, like, I know you will later, but yeah, it's very hard to follow along with your stuff. Because I'm trying to think, like, oh, I'll let him say his idea, and then I'll respond to it, and then you go squirrel and off on a tangent, and like, ugh. But whatever, we'll get through this, guys. We'll get through this.
Their number is. So this is some chick who probably has been manipulative to her entire life, and so she finds out this guy at work likes her, and he knows that she's got a boyfriend, but he just magically does better things for her. And he's that guy who's hoping that, my boyfriend's such an asshole. He did this to me today, and she still fucks him. And so he's going to be that guy who's like, all I have to do is just let her cry on my shoulder. I just got to be there when she needs me. And, eventually when she breaks up with this guy, because he's an asshole, she always says he's an asshole, then I'm going to be the guy who gets picked. And so he's doing a lot of extra favors for her at work, and she knows this is going on. She knows specifically that he likes her, so once he's under her spell, she can just manipulate him all day. And so she made the mistake of telling Karen Strong. She made the mistake of telling her that, I know this guy likes me. I know what's going on here. I know he's doing a bunch of favors for me. He's my bitch. And then Karen proceeded to tell the guy, and he flipped out. Now, on a basic level, this is what happens. But if you get people who are doing this who have actual power, this is when shit starts to hit the fan. Because you get the guys who are, the people who are not going to make it in the free market, those are the ones that go to the government.
Yeah, but, we'll give him another second here. I just need to pause it because it felt been going a little long without saying anything. But, okay, we'll see where he's going with this point on people who can't make it in the free market. Because his terms of the free market and his idea of what the current system is seem a little bit messed. We'll keep going. We'll keep going.
All the teachers that can't teach in private schools, they go to the government schools. That's why the private schools are better, because they hire the more competent people, and the government will just fucking hire anybody. Like, I had so many incompetent teachers when I was in school, when I was in public school. So you get enough of these betas. They start cucking for women because they think it's going to get them laid, which it doesn't. The male feminist doesn't get laid. In fact,
I think we're going to clip that bit right there and probably put it on repeat. Actually, you know what? We'll go back a couple seconds so we can get the whole segment uninterrupted. So, all right, let's hear that again. Let's hear that again with current context for what you're doing.
You get the guys who are, the people who are not going to make it in the free market, those are the ones that go to the government. All the teachers that can't teach in private schools, they go to the government schools. That's why
Pity there's no government-funded yoga instructors, Sorry, now we'll go back and get the whole thing. I just wanted to make that little fucking side-eye shade, whatever.
Now, on a basic level, this is what happens. But if you get people who are doing this who have actual power, this is when shit starts to hit the fan. Because you get the guys who are, the people who are not going to make it in the free market, those are the ones that go to the government. All the teachers that can't teach in private schools, they go to the government schools. That's why the private schools are better, because they hire the more competent people, and the government will just fucking hire anybody. Like, I had so many incompetent teachers when I was in school, when I was in public school. So you get enough of these betas.
Where is my voice recordings, Gray? Does a brother have to kiss you deeply and make eye contact to get them?
Thank you, Cyrus. Yeah, sorry, Cyrus. I honestly keep forgetting about that. Just send me the lines that you want me to read out. I'll get to them tonight after the stream's done. So DM me on Discord what you want me to say. I'll send you a bunch of samples. All right. One more time with this 30 seconds.
You get people who are doing this who have actual power. This is when shit starts to hit the fan. Because you get the guys who are, the people who are not going to make it in the free market, those are the ones that go to the government. All the teachers that can't teach in private schools, they go to the government schools. That's why the private schools are better. Because they hire the more competent people, and the government will just fucking hire anybody. Like, I had so many incompetent teachers when I was in school. When I was in public school. So you get enough of these betas. They start cucking for women because they think it's going to get them laid, which it doesn't. The male feminist doesn't get laid. In fact, the male feminist will just get falsely accused of rape, which has happened. This is a big thing back in maybe 2014 or 2015 on YouTube. Like, there was a big Thunderfoot. Maybe it was a little bit later than that. Maybe it was like 2016. Thunderfoot had all these videos about feminism. And there was one, I cannot remember her name. She was a very prominent redheads, not Big Red, not the patriarchy chick that you see in all the memes, but this other redheaded feminist that had Patreon when Patreon was first new. So this must have been about 3 or 4 years ago. And she was talking about all the male allies, and she was complaining that one of them had raped her in the elevator when he didn't, as far as I'm aware. So it's not a good strategy. You're just going to get used and abused, and women often are not thankful for men that help them. And maybe some women are, but for the most part, I've seen a extreme lack of gratitude. And that's not something to say that all women are shit. It's just their nature.
Okay, so I had to stop it at some point, but yeah, women are not grateful to men that help them. Like, men who adopt more of the feminist talking points tend to get screwed over. Oh, yeah. 2023, by the way, so message from the future to Sean of the past. Yeah, that hasn't changed. I believe, most recent big name is Justin Roiland. So, goodbye Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites. Because your kind of lead voice actor just got canned. Oh, God. Yeah, no, we're definitely going to have to clip this little bit and then keep it archived for when Venti eventually decides to peg you so hard that your lips come out your asshole in a massive inversion. Oh, God. But hey, then at least you will be literally talking out your ass. Continue.
I don't know if they can, it might not be beneficial for them to be like that. So they aren't. And I'm not here to say, oh, this is how things should be. I'm here to say this is how things actually are, and let's work with the actual rules. So if women happen to be like that, how do we work with that to make the best possible, to get the best possible results out of society? Because of course, women are certainly on a relative scale. So we have to act in a way that a relative scale matters, so that the problem gets fixed. Which you may already know what I'm leading to. So until we answer the problem of what should be done about the betas, because the betas who are maybe not going to reproduce as much, they're going to still do favors for women, and those women are going to say, if you could just make this really beneficial law to me, I might say hello to you. And of course, it's like the guy thinking, oh, she's going to fuck me, but she's like thinking, I'll just be nice to him and I'll get what I want, and then I'm going to leave. That's what a lot of manipulative. Be aware of this. A lot of manipulative women, that's what they do. They know that they're doing that. They know if they just bat their eyes, they'll get out of a speeding ticket, or if they just bat their eyes, you go pick up the heavy shit for them. They've been doing that their whole life, and it's not their first rodeo. So by the time they're 20, 25, 30, though after 30 it works a little bit less. By the time they're a certain age, they've gotten so fantastic at this stuff that you don't even know what's going on.
I mean, they could potentially wrap a YouTuber with over 500,000 subs around their finger and get them to completely divest from their original group and speak more talking points that they agree with, even if it means burning the audience that built them up. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. How old's Venti again? By the way, guys, I don't think she's 30 yet. Oh,
How long till Murphy Jr. gets exposed on the slippy slide? He's unaware that his device search history has been compromised and YouTube has purposely boosted him. The moment those milkers float your way, it's honeypot blackmail time.
yep. Well, real talk. Thank you very much. And yeah, yeah. No, he's like rat in a trap here. But we can only speculate on exactly why he's pulled this bait and switch, why he's decided to completely turn his back on the original. We assume that it's for, at the very least, money, if not the far more ridiculous reason of Poon. Heck, for all we know, this is the equivalent of a celebrity marriage, and he's just, like, they're just in a relationship for clout, trying to milk both their audiences. But at the very least, we can agree that he is right now, Sean is acting like the very person that he calls evil in this video. He hasn't even called them evil. He's titled them, but what he keeps talking about with betas and guys who can't get laid, yeah, he's referring to male cucks doing favors for women in exchange for, let's say, sexual attention from women. And hey, Sean, this is exactly what we think you're doing. So, straight up, you from several years ago is disgusted with you from the present.
Unless you're hyper aware, so just stop. If it's something that she could easily do for herself, you say pick it up yourself. Like when I was a hospital worker, and this is before I knew this, all these bitches would say, "Can you pick up my dirty trash bags? They're too heavy," or "This linen bag is too heavy. I can't pick it up." Meanwhile, I'd sit there, and I'm not that much bigger. But the way muscle mass works is that if you have the same amount of mass, whether you're a male or female, it works the same. The only reason my men are stronger is we have more muscle. But if she has like the same amount of muscle mass, she can produce as much force as you can. So I would sit there and take these bags and just lift them up with one hand. And I figured it out after a while. I lift that shit up with one hand like it was nothing, and they'd sit there complaining, "Oh, it's like all this stuff like that. Oh, I can't lift it; it's just too heavy." And no, you're just lazy. And so stop doing favors like that because they don't appreciate it. And they'll just, it's like when you're at a shitty job and you do a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it's not just that they're lazy. They like getting men to work for them. Like, they could be perfectly capable and they'd probably do it under other circumstances, but they like getting a man to do things for them. It's not just mere laziness. I don't know what else you'd call it, but it's not just because they don't want to do the work. It's because it's actively enjoyable to get someone else to do the work for them.
They're just going to reward, "Oh, he's a good worker. I'm just going to reward him with more work and no extra pay." That's kind of what goes on there. So stop helping them. So we have to, the problem is the betas, which is great because if we can say that the problem is not with women, which is what a lot of MGTOW channels are saying, I don't like that. We want to make the problem with men because if it's our problem, if it's our fault, we can fix the problem. If it's women's fault, they're not going to fix it. That's somebody else.
No, that's the thing. We need to acknowledge that the problem's with women because like we can say, yeah, it's the problem with men, but guess what? Simps are gonna simp. What you do as a man who has the willpower to not simp, or I guess what we do as men with the willpower to not simp, because you've apparently fallen off that wagon, is you fuck off and let the simps and the feminists and the women, you let them just deal with this shit on your own, and you just look after yourself. Trying to convince other men not to simp, no. Yeah, it's been said many times, men don't red pill other men. Women red pill men. Women will hurt men, and men will realize the truth. And then they will turn to men for an explanation as to why everything's all fucked. So, yes, while I can see the point of saying, hey, men, you can do stuff to change the current circumstances, yes, but the main issue is that women are going to do this, and men need to learn that, yeah, I'm just not going to help. Not going to fuck with them. Not going to bother with them. I'm going to focus on me and live with me. Because if you're trying to tell a simp not to simp, he's going to keep simping and he's going to cut you out of his life. Continue.
Else is not going to solve your problem, so I go out of my way to make things my problem so I can fix it. So here's a solution that we can take. So now, maybe things change, women vote down welfare and alimony and child support, and shit like that, which I very highly doubt they're going to do without any sort of
I apologize for how many of my chat I just inadvertently murdered. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Let's just hear that again. Let's just hear that again real quick, just in case someone managed to miss it.
the problem. If it's women's fault, they're not going to fix it. That's somebody else. Somebody else is not going to solve your problem. So I go out of my way to make things my problem so I can fix it. So here's a solution that we can take. So now, maybe things change, women vote down welfare and alimony and child support and shit like that, which I very highly doubt they're going to do without any sort of bluff to their...
Hey, Sky Knight Burst, welcome. Just... Oh, boy. Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah, breathe. Thank you. Jeez. Jesus. Oh. I highly doubt... Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Literally, society will collapse before women willingly advocate in large numbers to give up their fucking privileges. No. Literally, society is going to fall apart before that happens.
Right? It's sort of like chicken war with like their... God, I can never think of this. Like, with their negotiations, because unless men say, you do this or we're not going to play anymore, that might be what happens. But one of the things we can do is we can try to satisfy the people who are helping them in some way that gets them away from the cause.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag doll life. Hashtag artificial wombs. Sex dolls, artificial wombs, AI waifus. Like, to satisfy this shit, we replace women by identifying what utilities they are holding hostage and creating viable alternatives. So, I mean, if you wanted to do this, make dolls more acceptable for guys. Which, it's slowly happening. And, hey, I'm doing my part because I'm going to get working on figuring out this whole AI waifu stuff. But roasting your ass, Sean, is turning out to be extremely lucrative for my channel. So work on that's going to be delayed while I build up finances. Or at the very least, build up the audience. But, yeah, we'll just continue here. Don't want to tangent too hard.
So we can say this, and this is a big move that's already working. This is, we have like websites like the Dollhouse that are making artificial sex dolls.
Oh, well, he actually mentions it. Okay, maybe he'll mention the other shit.
You've got people working on artificial birth, so that way, if you're not attracted to a woman, you can just go fuck an artificial pod or something like that, and you can have your children that way. And if we get AI, you can have the AI act as a female who likes you. That
I swear I'm not psychic, guys. I didn't watch this video before, but yeah, apparently even 3 years ago, Sean understood the same things that, yeah, that's what needs to happen. So 2019, 2020, have the actual solutions to the problem changed? No, same shit. It's just We're closer to actually solving that crap now. And apparently, Brittany Venti can offer you something that could not be satisfied by current tech.
You can raise a child with it. We don't need to change the entirety of female nature. We just need to change the relative scale enough to where it's like, you're dating this robot and you're like the most attractive thing that the robot could possibly find. And then you don't need to go out and cuck for other women. She can still act like a woman in that case. They just set you to set the sights on 10 for you specifically. And then, well, then you have a wife that's not going to cheat on you. You have a wife that likes you. You have a wife that has a kid that's yours, and because it's a robot, it's not going to take them away from you and things like that. So if you take away all those worries, you solve the problem with the betas. You give them a little artificial life that they can have, which could be certainly better than anything they'd be able to get. And then you solve the problem of communism. Communism only works because men go and fight for it.
You know what? That is an entirely accurate statement. Except, for the part where communism works, no. A communist system is maintained and is brought about because men are willing to fight for it. But doesn't matter how many men are willing to fight for communism, eventually it doesn't work. Also, just some random guy. You see, if I've learned anything from the gacha marketplace, it's that what I should do is aim to create AI waifu for free and then appeal to the whales of the industry in order to finance all the people who want the free-to-play model. Like, there's a system there. I'm not quite ready to do it yet, but there's a market. And heck, if fucking gacha waifus are going to drain a whole bunch of simp bucks, then AI waifus? Yeah, there's a market even bigger than gacha for that.
They say, I'm not going to be able to reproduce. I'm not going to pass on my genetics because I'm on the lower scale. Because there's this thing called capitalism, this thing called free market, which has brought us shitloads of great stuff. It's taken so many people out of poverty. It's made people's lives way better. But what it has done, it's destroyed social class.
No. Welfare has fucked it all up. It is that the least productive people of society are seen as more valuable than the mid-level production of society. And they are given incentives in order to, through sheer numbers or justification for voting, etc., keep them down. Like, the poor here are the ones who are like, yeah, I'm going to turn to the government and get my hand out. Yeah, that's not the free market. In the free market, in capitalism, if you don't work, if you don't provide, you die.
The robot will pay for itself in the amount of money you will save from not buying protection. The era for robocy is now.
Oh, not buying protection? I mean, on one hand, yeah, let's be honest, how many packs of condoms would you have to go through? But it's not just protection. Like, with the robussy, you don't gotta pay for dates. You don't gotta pay to buy your robussy extra vehicles. You don't gotta decorate the house for them. Like, let's be honest. The condoms and birth control pills and whatever other forms of contraception, that is probably the least expensive part of maintaining a relationship. I will keep going. We got 4 or 5 minutes left.
The class system, guys, Marx was right. He was right about this shit. The class system matters. And because it matters, well, the only reason his arguments were the only reason why shitloads of people believe in communism, because there's some truth to his argument. So when you see an idea that's horrendously stupid that everybody looks at, like the Twilight movies, those movies were fucking retarded. The one with the BDSM movie, 50 Shades of Grey, retarded. Yet shitloads of women look at that stuff. So there's something that shit is getting right. And so in the Twilight movies, I think it's like, well, he's like a rich guy. He can give.
It's emotion. Like, the writer, guess what? The writers of both Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey were women. They were appealing to the ideal female fantasy a highly emotional journey. You don't need to go like going look at that and saying it's stupid. Like, yeah, guess what? I'm pretty sure that isekai genre is by and large stupid, but it highly appeals to the male fantasy, and that's why it's enjoyable. Twilight and 50 Shades appeal to the female fantasy. That's why they're enjoyable. We'll see if over the next couple years you actually manage to realize this. Who knows? Continue.
Me superpowers, and he lives forever, and he can make me live forever. He can make me if he bites me and I turn into a vampire, I'll be 19 forever. I'll be at my highest sexual attractiveness if he bites me as a teenager. Oh, and I'm a year older than him, so I can. God, I made a bet I could watch all the movies, and I did, and I'm glad and not glad that I did.
Honestly, you should have read the books. They're better than the movies. And yes, guys, I did read all the books. Wasn't quite under duress, but it was about as close as you get to being under duress. Chronic boredom and very little to read with no internet. And yeah, Nagamin. 50 Shades did start out as Twilight fanfic that got so popular it became its own thing. And then, well, it became its own series and then became its own movie. I don't know if it got a full movie series, though. Yeah, 50 Shades. You're right, 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, where's my royalties? Yeah, but just taking a step back to his point about class. No, it's like class is part of it, but guess what? In every society, you are going to get people who have shit and the people who don't have shit, because we're not all born into equal circumstances or with equal abilities. What matters is class mobility, and that's one of the key selling points of the free market. The actual free market is class mobility. The more you introduce government and centralized authority, the more you get a caste system with no social mobility, with no class mobility. And that's what leads to the resentment that brings about communism, because people would like, well, I'd rather 99% of the population be on the same level, i.e. dog shit, than have the majority of the population in a better situation with me. Or it's just the philosophy of lazy people who could move up the social ladder, but they don't want to. They'd rather just sit on the bottom and resent it. SCE, milk this for all it's worth. Oh, I will milk this and make these regular streams, quite frankly, until chat gets sick of them. So long as you guys find this stuff entertaining enough to keep tuning in and keep active in the chat, then I'm going to keep doing this, because, like, let's be honest, there's at the very least good commentary to be had here, and there's literal years worth of crap. Like, I've only downloaded 40 of his videos so far, about, again, an average of around 20 minutes per video. That is several hours. I'm not going to be able to cover more than 3 videos a stream because I double or triple the length of the video with the commentary. But I digress. Let's see if we can get through this one, and then we'll have a brief intermission.
Because, well, it's just porn for women. So there's something about that series that's right. There's something about the Marxist ideas that are right, which is why they've been an argument for the past 130 years. I think it's been around, maybe 150 years. So we have to say, okay, hey, the thing that Marx said was correct. Classes do matter. That the class system keeps appearing all over the place. And so we have to adjust for that. Even though we got more stuff, we still have the relative scale is still set way up. The guy who's at the top is a million times better than the guy at the bottom, whereas previously when you have a communist system, they're only twice as good. Twice as...
What? You're telling me that under the current communist regime of China, that Xi Jinping is only twice as good as the commoner? Hey, Rooster Crow, welcome. you're telling me that under communism, which again, we have a live action example of right now, that Xi Jinping is only twice as good as the people beneath him? I mean, like, I can understand that since you're eating a shit ton of soy at this time, that your brain probably isn't working right. But I mean, it sounds like you're. I mean, I'd say you're on drugs, but I don't fucking know. This is your brain on soy, gentlemen. This is your brain on soy.
Good is certainly a lot better than a million times. It's certainly a lot less of a disadvantage than being a million times better. So I think, listening to Turd Flinging Monkey and him talking about the sex robots and Sandman doing that too, an artificial birth, this might be the solution. I think maybe both of them are maybe DDJ and all the other MGTOW channels I listen to. Probably, actually, I think it's just those three. I think they were probably already getting at this. It's just it finally hit me why they're saying things like this. That's how you solve the problem. The problem is not the society as a whole. The problem is the betas. We stop the betas from helping women. We even just give them knowledge like this, like the women aren't going to have sex with you for helping them. They'll actually hate you more. One of the contingencies of communism is that when you help a communist, you're the first person to die.
Huh. Yeah. It's kind of almost how when you help a feminist, you're the first person to get canceled. Yeah. Oh, and Griffith. Yeah, I recognize your sarcasm there, because all you got to do is look at China right now and be like, yeah, are all the men getting the poon yeti? No, they're not. All-time low. Leftover women? Yeah, yeah, Now, I can't promise like puniti for all. But those who will stand with me and fight for me, I at the very least will be able to promise the access to robussy for all. Hashtag Gray for Prime Minister 2020, whatever the fuck the next election is. Next.
So if I'm Stalin and I had a bunch of people, what I did is I murdered a bunch of people to get in power. I need to look this up at some point. Whoever was before, that's how Stalin got power. He just murdered everybody that was going to be next in line for the dictatorship of Russia. And he's like, well, now I'm in power. But if I murdered everybody, and I don't want people knowing that, because this is like back in the day, there weren't cameras. So it's like, I don't want anybody knowing I murdered everybody. So the only people who know are this guy, this guy, and this guy. So they're all going to be sent to the firing squad. And now I'm a perfect leader. Now I got here justly because nobody else can say anything. So the first people to die in this situation are the people that help. The first people that are to be accused of false rape are the people who help her lift up. Oh, I just was being nice, and he helped me lift this box up, and now he wants to rape me or something like that. Well, that's not the case.
Is that why no one's ever seen you in the same room as Brittany Venti? Because you know that if you ever get in physical contact with your girl, she's going to drop the legal hammer on you? Real Talk, you got some evidence? DM that to me, Real Talk. I'll probably be able to look at it later. But I'm definitely going to lose it in the middle of the stream right there. Anyway. About a minute and a half left. Let's wrap this up.
So you're the first person to die if you're the one that helps. So we need to figure out how to get these people to stop helping, to stop cucking for women who are just manipulative. And again, like I'm saying, I don't know, some manipulative bitch is going to say like, oh, well, he's saying that all women are like that. I'm not saying all women are like that. I'm saying that a tendency for females is to manipulate guys to do stuff. There are women that go past that, but there are also a lot of women who have a lot of power that are not past that, and we need to account for that. But anyway, that's just my 20 minutes on that. Happy New Year, because it's December 31st, so this will probably be released tomorrow or the 2nd. So Happy New Year, Happy 2019, and if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, you can also hit the like button. If you still like it, you can maybe send a comment. Like this is a very complex problem, so I'd love to hear other people's perspectives on this. So if you have a sort of like, well, you missed this, How about you throw that in the comment section? Or if you totally disagree, you can throw that shit in the comment section as well. I'll argue with you. I got nothing else to do today.
Can I have a robot lady friend and still be considered MGTOW and be able to achieve monk mode?
Hey, so far as I know, MGTOW only applies no marriage, no cohabitation to meat sack women. So I'm pretty sure that robussy doesn't count. Also, just a reminder, these videos are not up on YouTube anymore. Sorry. The archive, unfortunately, doesn't have a comment section, but apparently Sean doesn't want to talk about this stuff anymore. I mean, we don't have to think very hard to imagine why. But what was handy is that he did actually give a date for this. So apparently, this was December 31st, sounds like 2018, and he's celebrating the new year of 2019. So, hey, that gives us a timeline for the rest of this. This video was apparently initially recorded on December 31st, 2018. All right, 30 seconds, almost done.
It's a holiday. Well, whatever day it is, apparently. Well, if it's like a year from now, then I do have something else to do. So, in that case, if you're commenting, so I yell at you in a year from now, don't comment. Comment on some other video. Or actually, what you could do is go to my new video and say, that video about the sex robots, fuck you, and blah, blah, blah. You can throw it in that video, and then I'll respond to it. Because by that point, I've already forgotten about this video.
Oh, shit. So apparently, back at the end of 2018, he'd actually say he respond to negative comments and criticism. What's the point of making evergreen content if you're only going to have people comment on your most recent shit? I mean, hell, if someone wanted to comment on some of my first videos and tell me I'm full of shit, I mean, will I probably ignore it? Yeah, because it's usually got to have substance before I say something to it. But if someone makes a good point and I manage to see it, then I'll probably go for it. I'm just usually not the type to respond to comments unless I think there's something worth saying. Almost done. Almost done.
Anyway, so I will see you in the next one. And Happy New Year. Have a good day. All this stuff. Bye.
All right. All right. So took a little bit longer than I would have liked, but we made it. This one dropped in. So this will be the next one. But we're going to take a brief intermission right now. So I just double check what we got here in chat. Yeah. All right. I better talk about monk mode. Ghost of Kiev. Asking for his 10%. All cap. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. So, yeah, brief intermission. So, go to the bathroom, grab your drinks. When we get back, well, he didn't have the title in this, but this is Popular 15-Year-Old Leftist. So, yeah, next up on the roasting menu, we get to add Greta Thunberg to the menu. So, sharpen your knives, gentlemen. We got a double sacrifice in the next section. All right. Be right back, guys. And we're back, gents. Sorry, I just needed to reheat some food and grab something to eat because I haven't had dinner yet. Yeah, so let's see what we got here. Aerodynamic. Interesting one here. Do you think that being a part of the Red Pill community is a distraction from goals if you've already internalized the message? Well, I mean, it could be to a roundabout point. But at the same time, like, it's good to have somewhat of a social life. Like, there's probably men out there who can just like go completely dive into their goals and not need a lot of social interaction or engagement. But it all depends on how much you go in with like red pill community or your more red pill connections. Personally, I see this as a great way to be able to actually be open and honest about stuff that, quite frankly, I can't discuss in the real world meat space. So it's just good to have that kind of place to vent. I believe it's important. Also, K Plan, no background music. I hadn't really planned on having any sort of background music for the intermission, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to put some together. I'll think on it. Like, it lasts a variable amount of time, so it would have to be kind of like elevator music, I think. thought I was on a number two break. No, I really just needed to grab something to eat. Just pop some chicken in the microwave, get that to a to an edible temperature, and take a couple bites of it. All right, so we are back. We got 57 in the house. So thank you, everyone. So we will now get into video 5 from Sean. Think before you sleep. Popular 15-year-old leftist.
One of the more disgusting things that the left does is they use children like human shields. They will either throw them up as a, like if you talk about illegal aliens, they'll say, what about the children? They're so scared and hopeless. Like there was this illegal alien story where this guy takes his 9-year-old daughter across, with several countries, and he brings her to the U.S. without giving her water. And then the people who received them at the border, the medical staff or whatever that received them at the border, did everything they possibly could to save her life from dehydration, but it was too late. She had already been dehydrated too long. She was at the point where, I think it was just police officers. They didn't have medical staff. It was just police officers, and what she needed at that point was probably an IV, I believe, but they didn't have that, and she ended up dying. So what the left does, even though the border security or whoever was there did everything they could to save this girl, they said, see, Trump's walls are killing 9-year-olds. This is disgusting. There's another group I'll post called Fuck Hate, which is a YouTube channel that is from a company that sells T-shirts. And the way they sell T-shirts is to tell children to say a bunch of offensive things and to believe that all men are rapists and that women don't get paid as much for working as hard or something like that.
Hey, inequality! Women are paid 23% less than men for the exact same fucking work.
And they throw kids up as human shields. Now this is child abuse.
All right, his first episode of integrating video to back up the point, and are we going to get to talk a bit more about the pay gap, or are we saving that for later? Or are we talking more about the, at the time, underage Greta von Thunberg? Also, they can get kids saying that stuff on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure that crap is monetized too. Continue.
It's child abuse because you're the parent, you're the authority. If you sit there and insist that your kids believe what you believe, and say it in a way where it's like, if you don't believe this, you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be beaten, you're going to be attacked, verbally abused, physically abused, and all the works. And so what they might be saying to their kids is believe that women are paid less than men for doing the same work, or I'm going to throw you in the corner and hit you. And so, of course, the child's just going to mimic what their parents think because their life depends on it. If I don't agree with what mommy says, then I'm going to be hurt. I could very well die. So that's why I think kids should be kept out of politics. But because the left keeps bringing them back in, we have to comment on this because I guess it works. I mean, I guess it worked with Hitler, the Hitler Youth. And by the way, the left sits there and calls everybody Hitler. I've actually read Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. The left constantly uses the tactics that Hitler does because the tactics that Hitler used worked. And they're going to throw you off the track by calling you Hitler so you don't investigate. That's like the best possible position to be in when someone's committed a crime is the person that is accusing everybody else. Well, why would he do it? He's accusing everybody else, so he must be righteous. People just immediately assume that, which is why the left can use all the tactics that Hitler used and then call everybody else Hitler. They're doing that on purpose. And so this particular speech is something that's been kind of a
I honestly can't say how much that's accurate to the stuff with Mein Kampf because, unlike Sean, I haven't read Mein Kampf. I will admit, with the stuff that I've learned recently, it's probably worth a read. I mean, heck, if you're going to read Viktor E. Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, no, it's just Man's Search for Meaning, which I do recommend. It's actually quite a good book and comes from the perspective of a Jewish guy who got through a concentration camp and lives. So, I don't know. Some value in reading both sides of the coin, I suppose. Anyway. Oh, Tim, you've read it? Well, pity I can't have you on to kind of live commentary for what he said there, whether how accurate what he said, what he put in there was true to the book, but if he says anything else on that regards, feel free to drop some stuff in the commentary because the chat will be shown on the video upload, but let's keep going.
Annoying that have been seen on Facebook for the past 2 weeks or so. It's been on Facebook. I think it has over 1 million views on Facebook, and it's got a couple 100,000 views on YouTube. And it's produced by a group called Democracy Now! And if you know who that is, you might have rolled your eyes already. The problem with this is that this 15-year-old girl, who you've seen in the thumbnail, is very, very good at speaking, especially for a 15-year-old. She's almost at adult level. She's got a couple little ticks that are incorrect, like she's kind of robotic in the way she stands. She doesn't really look comfortable. In a couple of years, she'll figure that out, and she'll be a phenomenal speaker. Unfortunately. What we need to realize, and we need to understand, that just because someone...
Yeah, well, as of 2023, I cannot say whether or not she has improved at all as a speaker, but she certainly decided... Oop, 1 second. B-Boy Red 13, welcome, welcome. Yeah, can't say whether or not Greta's gotten any better as a speaker because nowadays she's known less and less for her speeches and more for her staged arrests at protests.
Someone is a good speaker does not mean their points are actually right. In fact, speaking of her points, why don't I just... I'm not going to play the whole video because I don't want to do like one of those reaction videos. I'm just going to play you a 30-second clip, and that'll be the argument that I'm going to respond to. And then if you want to watch the full video, if you want to watch her TED Talk as well, I'll put those in the description for you. So here it is.
You only speak of green, eternal economic growth because you are too scared of being unpopular. You only talk about moving forward with the same bad ideas that got us into this mess, even when the only sensible thing to do is pull the emergency brake. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children.
And so, like I said, she's a very good speaker. She has good...
Leave to children. Right, like you wrote that fucking speech. Like that was your speech that you completely wrote up and thought entirely on your own and weren't at all coached and scripted the entire way. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is she necessarily wrong with those words exactly? No. But who she's pointing them at? Like what? She's speaking at the UN. Like, I'm sorry. I can't remember that the last time the UN was anti-green. Who the heck are you speaking to? And yeah, you need to promote economic growth because, Greta, you kind of need economic growth. You need this stuff to survive. Especially someone like you who'd rather get on a private jet and burn more carbon than the average family does in a year in a single trip. Yeah, but people have been over her hypocrisy 10,000 times, and she ain't in the demand for roasting these days, at least not as much as Mr. Sean here.
Tone, she has good pacing, she has good pronunciation, she has good transitions. All the markers of a good speaker. The problem is if you actually listen to what's being said and stop focusing on the nonverbal communication that's there, you realize that she's really saying nothing. This particular video that I'm throwing up there is about a 3-minute video. She does about a 13-minute TED Talk. And in both these cases, she says absolutely nothing. She says a lot of really destructive things. And the clip I...
Wow, she manages to only waste 13 minutes of airtime while saying absolutely nothing? Well, she's got a better useless airspace to talking ratio than you do on your live streams these days, Sean. So... oh, how the mighty have fallen. Oh, yeah, true. Just a minute ago. She's talking crap about greenskins, talking about green oppression. And yeah, where's Greta now that Ohio is probably the biggest environmental disaster in the US? And of course, she's not going to protest China or India because unlike America and Europe, where they'll help you stage a protest, if the cops carry Greta off in China, she's not coming back. So please, Greta, on the off chance that somehow you managed to hear this, and I'm sure you've been told a million times before, go take your shit to China, because then at the very least, once they dispose of you, you won't be our problem anymore, and we don't have to look at you.
just showed, she doesn't really argue, because every sort of argument is going to contain facts, reasons, and evidence. But what she does instead is she does ad hominem attacks. She does shaming language. Oh, you don't believe in climate change because you're pussies. You don't believe in climate change because you're immature. I'm 15. I know more than you.
Oh my god, his old videos are a fucking gold mine. I mean, honestly, if I had the freaking time and patience, I'd probably make a video of past Sean reacts to current Sean's live streams.
By the way, that's a very immature thing to say. All kids say it. If an adult who is 50 years older than you doesn't have more experience than you, well, let me just say it's very, very unlikely. Like, you have those girls who would say, like, I need to date a guy I'm 15, I need to date a guy at 25 because I'm more mature. It's a very immature thing to say. So all she really does is ad hominem attacks, which are just character attacks. They work, but they're not arguments. And they're slowly working a lot less now that people have been pointing out what that tactic is. So if you're going to argue properly, your argument must contain facts, reason, and evidence. So the fact, the sky is blue. Why? My reasons. The sky is blue because the light reflects off the ocean, which reflects back up into the sky, and that turns it blue.
I sincerely hope that you are being completely hyperbolic with that. Because that is quite honestly one of the dumbest fucking takes. One of the dumbest reasons for the sky being blue. Like, okay. Fucking talk about putting the cart before the horse. Like, Sean, how did you make it to your mid-20s and not know that water is not blue? The sky is blue. Honestly, I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it has to do with, well, air is blue. You know how it's easy to observe this? Get to a high point, look at a distant mountain on a clear day. You'll notice that it's behind more and more layers of bluish. The atmosphere is very, very slightly blue. Excuse me. That is why the sky appears blue. The sky is not blue because it's reflecting the ocean. The ocean is not blue. It is clear. The ocean appears blue because the sky is blue. Water is not blue. Go to your bathroom, turn on the sink, get a glass of water, even hold in your hands. Look at it. Does it look blue? No. No, it does not. You put a whole bunch of water in a clear container. Does your aquarium look blue? Does any aquarium look blue? No, the water isn't blue. Water is clear. Wow. Jesus. Oh. Continue. God.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's what people just say, though.
Okay. I don't know if it's true or not. That's what people just say. Yeah. Fucking here trying to make a point about arguments, and then you pull something out of your ass. Which, for fuck's sake, like, guys, this dude's in his mid-20s, doesn't understand why the sky is blue, which is something that, you know, most kids ask. And decided to use, like, you could use probably a number of examples for evidence, and you decide to use an example that you have no background knowledge in. Hey, here's an idea. How about you lean on the fucking 4 years of kinesiology, or however many years of kinesiology you put in to get your certification or degree or whatever? How about you stick to the fields that you actually know what the hell you're talking about, rather than pull that shit out of your ass? Holy fuck, that was dumb.
That's what I've been told my entire life. So there's my reasoning. Evidence.
Airdeck, the deepest indoor pool is blue? Huh. Like, you mean the one in Dubai? I'd be curious to see whether or not that's actually the case, whether or not when you get enough water together, it's blue. I mean, it is hydrogen and oxygen, and if oxygen primarily reflects blue light, then maybe water is like the atmosphere, and you put enough of it together, it will reflect blue light. But regardless of whether or not water reflects blue light in enough quantities, the sky is not blue because the ocean is blue. That is stupid.
Maybe I take some light. I reflect it off some water. That's from the ocean. And I prove that it turns the... Actually, that's not going to work. Let me just say, let me throw it around this way. I'm going to do a 10-year study on the sky is blue. I'm going to study for 10 years, and in every single day of that 10 years, the sky is going to be blue during the daytime. There's my evidence. Fact, sky is blue. Reason, it's blue because. Evidence, we did this study that showed this. That's what you want in an argument. An argument is not, you don't agree with climate change because you're stupid. That's ad hominem. People use that all the time, though. You may have seen it yourself. And so what you should do to respond to that is just say that's not an argument. And by the way, my extreme sympathies go out to this child. She has a lot of evidence of child abuse. Now, in her TED Talk, I think, or it's...
Oh, here we are. The first mentions of child abuse. Like, let's be honest. If Think Before You Sleep, Sean, stands out for one thing that distinguishes himself, in my mind, amongst all other Red Pill content creators, he is the one who is most likely to point out that a certain feature is evidence of child abuse. I don't know enough to say he's wrong. He may actually have a point in many of these cases. And I've certainly seen some corroborating evidence in other stories for people who tend to be on the left, usually suffering some form of child abuse. But then again, in this day and age, when single mothers reign supreme, I think it would actually be more rare to find a child that hasn't suffered some kind of child abuse. So I'm sure this is going to come up again, but we'll continue for now.
It's on some other article that I read. She went anorexic. Anorexia at I think maybe 13 or so. That's a big deal. Her claim, though, is like kind of like, people say that people commit suicide because of bullying, like that whole 13 Reasons show. By the way, a fantastic show. Very good story structure, very good characters, very good plots. But the message was wrong. People do not commit suicide because they're bullied. People commit suicide because they have shitty parents. Same thing for anorexia. People do not commit anorexia because they do not commit to anorexia because they find out about climate change.
Okay. You're seriously telling me that people don't commit suicide because they're bullied? They commit because they have shitty parents? Yeah, let's look at the male suicide rate of divorced men and say that, yeah, that's not because they are being bullied by women and the system who have power over them. Now, let's say that's because they have shitty parents. Yeah. Not really a bunch of great takes in this one, Sean. Let's keep going.
Oh, I heard about cows and I heard about airplanes and now I can't eat anymore. That's a suicidal thing. Anorexia is suicidal. People don't become suicidal because of shocking information. People become suicidal. People become anorexic because they've been abused as children. Now, how anorexic she was, think of it. She's 15. She must be like 100 pounds. She said she lost 10 kilos, which is about 25 pounds. At an age that's younger, I think it was 13 or so, at an age that's younger than 15. So she lost possibly 20-25% of her body weight. That is huge. She's not fully developed. That is going to have developmental effects on her. And that's likely because when I looked at her Wikipedia page, when I looked for evidence to see what her childhood background might be, I noticed that they say that she has a mother. Her mother is this opera singer, but they don't say anything about her father. They say that her father was a relative of some famous Swedish guy, which, so, who cares? If she has merit, she'll get by on her own fame as opposed to who she's related to. So no father in the household. She has Asperger's.
Oh, shocker of all shockers. Greta is the product of a single mother household. Yeah, again, he's willing to say shitty parents in one breath, but then acknowledge that it's a single mother household. So would it not be more fair to say that a large contributor to suicide is being born into a single mother household or raised in a single mother household? I guess we'll see whether or not he gets more or less aware of this as future videos go on. Hey, none of that. Griffith debating about the color blue is absolutely associated with roasting Sean. Like, he keeps on bringing all sorts of just incredibly shitty takes in. So don't worry, we're still roasting him. But hey, you also get to learn, elementary school science from watching my chat. Which, quite frankly, considering that Sean would rather parrot things that people said rather than do a very simple search on the internet. Again, he should have stuck to commenting on something that he actually knew about. But, I mean, if that's going to be your example of evidence, then did you even learn anything of value during your post-secondary education where you apparently learned kinesiology?
Syndrome, which I think is related. So, like I mentioned, she's very good at speaking. And I knew a lot about, I did martial arts, and I would see every so often you'd have these kids that were very good. And in fact, in this particular case, I'm thinking of two kids who were phenomenal. And these kids were 10 years old. They were 10 years old, and they were better than me at 22. And I've been taking martial arts for about the same amount of time, because otherwise they would have been like 4 years old. So they were 10 years old or so, and they were better than someone who was in their 20s. The only way that happens is that they're practicing all the time. Now, I knew who the teacher was, and I knew what his tendencies were, and the only way that those kids were that good is if he was cracking the whip and basically threatening violence if they didn't get good, or screaming and yelling, which is quite common in the karate scene, at least when I was in it. And so my theory here is that she is a good speaker at 15 because she's been around adults and not children. And there's some evidence of that when she does her TED Talk. She said she doesn't really get childhood games. Now, when you were a child, it is very important that you learn how to play with other kids by yourself, without your parents' help. That's called socialization. And a child needs to be socialized by the time they're about, I think, 4 years old.
Are you sure that you studied kinesiology and not child psychology? We understand your supposed credentials for yoga and fitness, but it's kind of curious how you know so much about child psychology that you can cite that more readily than you can stuff that you supposedly studied. I mean, let's be honest, chat. At this point, would we really be surprised to find out that Sean has some sort of childhood trauma or abuse? And he spent a lot of time researching that in his free time in order to better come to grips with his own personal situation? I don't know whether he did or not, but given that he seems more fixated on that than his supposed majors, I don't know more about things that I haven't personally studied unless I had a personal interest or investment in them. So maybe I'm off base here, but he's spouting a lot of stuff that I wouldn't exactly call common knowledge. And meanwhile, he seems very ignorant of stuff that I would consider fairly common, or at the very least easy to find knowledge.
If they don't make it by 4 years old, they're basically fucked. Because what will happen is that all the kids that were socialized by the time they were 4 are not going to want to play with the kid. So you've got a 4-year-old that's acting like a 2-year-old. All the 4-year-olds are not going to want to play with a kid who's 2. They're going to want to play with kids that are their age, mentally. And so they will shun him from the group. And you may have seen this when you were a kid. There was always that one kid that got kicked out, and
that honestly seems kind of stupid. Because, okay, 4-year-olds excluding 2-year-olds from playing. I mean, 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds, there's a decent gap in between them. But a 4-year-old needs to be socialized with other kids by the time they're 4? Under what circumstances do you have a whole bunch of toddlers going around and socializing with each other? Heck, you're lucky if they can speak whole sentences by the age of 3. And you're expecting them to be well socialized by the age of 4 with other kids their age? I'm not an expert in the field on this by any stretch of the imagination, so I can't say one way or the other. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I'm also not confident enough in why I think it's off to really say much more. So we'll just keep going. I'm gonna let that slide since I don't know enough.
why they got kicked out, because they weren't properly socialized. They didn't know how hard to hit. They cried or whined when they lost, or they were not following the rules, or they were cheating. Kids don't want to play with a kid like that. So if they're not socialized properly, they'll start doing things like that. And
the age of 4 is like preschool. Like, okay, I gotta understand those kinds of complaints coming from like a 7 to 10-year-old, but like a 4-year-old, I don't know. It just seems weird, guys. I don't know where he's pulling this from. I don't know. Like, again, I could really only say to my personal experiences in life. But I got no memory of fucking playing with other kids my age in any regular capacity prior to the age of 4. So, who knows? Maybe I'm terribly socialized. I turned out well enough to be able to hold a conversation with you, and you all apparently enjoy me when I'm being social with you. So, I did something right, but one data point is not evidence of a general trend. So, we'll continue anyway.
then nobody will play with them, which means the people who are at 4, who are socialized properly, will keep developing, while the 2-year-old is not going to develop that well. So my guess was that she was not properly socialized as a kid. Thus, she hung around a bunch of adults. She got a bunch of speaking skills, but she also got Asperger's. And she makes a comment about not understanding how kids play games, which is a very convenient comment, because later in that speech, and let me just throw this up now. Here's later in the speech. She makes this comment.
So we can't save the world by playing by the rules, because the rules have to be changed. Everything needs to change.
So I found it really convenient. I don't know if this was intended. Maybe she didn't write her speech. Maybe her mother wrote her speech or somebody else wrote the speech. Probably. But she mentions in the speech earlier that she doesn't understand how games are played and why kids play games. And in this clip I just sent you, or I just showed you, she says, we can't save the world by playing by the rules. I don't understand games, and I don't understand rules. So if she had played games when she was a kid, she would understand that there's a certain social conduct and a certain social context that things happen in. And if the context is not followed properly, people will not like you. And if people don't like you and you want to get something from them, you're not going to be able to get it from them unless you use force.
You know, that's not entirely accurate, I'd say. It's more so that you need to agree to follow the same set of rules in order to get people to accept limiting their options. I'm going to use soccer for an example because that's a game that I played a lot as a kid. And it was very loose and free form. By elementary school soccer is you go up to where two teams of people are kicking the ball back and forth at each other. And you ask, hey, who needs another player? And you get pointed at which direction you're going to be kicking the ball in. And then bam, whoever the heck is kicking the ball in the same direction as you, those are your teammates. Whoever's kicking the ball against you, that's not. And you just kind of pick it up as you go along. Why don't people grab the ball with their hands? Because that's the rule. It's not a matter of, oh, people won't like you if you don't follow that rule. It's more so everyone has agreed to the rule of only the person guarding the net can use their hands. Everyone else has to only use their feet to move the ball around on the field. They've also agreed that you need to kick the ball into the net on the opposite side of the field to score a point. You can't just kick it into the net closest to your team to score a point. That scores a point for the other team. So that is why you follow the rules. It's not a matter of social acceptance. It's a requirement for participation. I mean, Greta, you are more than welcome to break the rules if you think that you can't save the planet or whatever, or secure the future by following the rules. You're more than welcome to break the rules to do that. The problem is, you will then no longer be subject to the rules and the protections of all the other rules. You break the social contract, you are no longer eligible for the protections of the social contract, and that's how you're going to end up curb stomped and left on a street corner bleeding out. Let's continue.
So when you look at her Wikipedia page, it says she demands these changes be made. If you're trying to do something positive, you don't demand change gets made. You work with them. There was a girl who is...
No, the thing is, if you demand something be changed, it's an ultimatum. Like, I do this or else. Or else what? Or else I use overwhelming force. You cannot have demands from an inferior position. You require a superior position. You have to actually have leverage in order to do it. Otherwise, you need to negotiate where you trade something of value for something else of value. If you are in an inferior position and making demands, people can just ignore you. They don't have to follow anything you say. And in fact, for your insubordination, they can probably take some shit away from you. But she's going to act like she's the fucking underdog. Meanwhile, she gets to speak at this kind of fucking conference. I was like, yeah, no. Like, if you were not propped up by the very people that you claim to be against, then you would not have a speaking position. You'd be like the rest of us making YouTube videos behind avatars on the internet trying to make your point. You are a tool of the people you claim to oppose. Controlled opposition? Yeah, I'd probably put you into that category if you're even smart enough to realize that's what you are. But given your smirk when the cops are carrying you off, yeah, you know what you are now.
Named Rachel Parent. Apparently Parent's the last name. Who was really, really famous about 3 or 4 years ago because she went on a debate with Kevin O'Leary. Now, her whole argument was against genetically modified food. She's not a very big fan of GMOs. She had some research for it, which her arguments actually contained facts, reason, and evidence. And when she got to her main point, she said, we don't have to get rid of GMOs. I just want to label them. I think we can all get behind that because all of us should know what's in our food. It wasn't like, you're a piece of shit. How?
Yeah, quick question. What defines a GMO? Do you mean whether the DNA was modified in a lab? Because if you're going by the literal definition of genetically modified organism, selective breeding, I'd even argue that cloning is a GMO. Considering that most fruit nowadays, from my understanding at least, like your standard fruit, your apples, primarily your apples, I'm going to use those as an example. So the apples nowadays, those are primarily done by graft cloning, from my understanding, wherein you cut the branches off of a fruit tree and you graft them onto a healthy tree so that it will continually produce consistent kinds of fruit. Like consistent apples of the exact same species with minimal variation. Is that considered a GMO? What about when you are trying to specifically breed a superior crop? Corn, for example. Like, my understanding is that corn, especially in North America, needed to be specifically grown, well, cloned from the corn that was local and hardy enough to survive cooler temperatures, and the better tasting, sweeter corn from the more, for lack of a better word, tropical regions. Like, is cross-pollination and forced breeding, is that GMOs? By definition, I would say it is. So if you're going to label something as a GMO, what are your requirements for it? Because just saying that you're going to do it, okay, but you need to be very specific about what is a GMO and what is not. Because by definition, I'd say every single fruit and vegetable on our grocery store shelves, not to mention the specific breeds of cattle that we use to generate all of our beef, or the various other specific selective breeding of livestock in order to create all the varieties of pork and chicken. I mean, if you've ever been to a fall fair, you know how many different shapes a chicken can come in. That's all genetic modification through selective breeding. And I would say that it's probably extremely difficult to find something on your grocery store shelf or even at your local farmer's market that was not subject to genetic modification at least some point during your history. Maybe wild blueberries. Like, that's probably the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. But what defines a GMO? If you're going to demand we put labels on that kind of stuff, first you need to define what a GMO is. Anyway, side tangent rant over. Let's see what this actually has for context.
How dare you? Fuck you, you need to label foods. It's like, this is reasonable. Agree or disagree. Whereas Greta, if you listen to her entire speech by the UN Council, that I posted partially a part of in this video, she demands, make these changes, you pussies. Now, she doesn't really say what, I think she just says lower emissions. Well, if you want to lower emissions, then create nuclear power plants and make everybody have an electric car.
Hey, aerodynamic, it would be bloody impossible, I'd think, to GMO women to be loyal, because I'm pretty sure that over the course of millennia of selective breeding, the loyalty gene in women has been thoroughly eradicated. Let's continue.
That's how you do it. But they don't want to create nuclear power plants because that solves the problem. And so they're going to create all these fear videos about how nuclear plants are going to blow up the world. Nuclear plants are going to blow up the world, even though they're very, very safe and they only have meltdowns in very rare occasions. And those meltdowns aren't even that bad. There's a little radiation for a while, and then it pretty much just goes away. So here's where this ends. Jordan Peterson has kind of been saying a lot recently, maybe in the past year or so, is that there's no such thing as a selfish action or a selfless action. Everything that you do to yourself that's good is good for everybody else. Everything that you do to yourself that's bad is bad for everybody else.
Did I hear that right? Chat, did that make sense? Like, that's more of a Jordan Peterson quote, but like, I don't know. We're gonna go back just 20 seconds or so and listen to that again to make sure I heard that correctly.
This ends. Jordan Peterson has kind of been saying a lot recently, maybe in the past year or so, is that there's no such thing as a selfish action or a selfless action. Everything that you do to yourself that's good is good for everybody else. Everything that you do to yourself that's bad is bad for everybody else.
That seems like an incredibly stupid take. Because if I shank a bugger and take his wallet, that might be good for me because now I have the contents of someone else's wallet and I probably also don't have a witness. I'm pretty sure that that is not good for everybody else, but it is good for me. Likewise, I could go in front of an emergency room, announce my intent to be an organ donor, and then like put a bullet between my eyes. And that might be good for everyone who receives my organs, but it sure as heck wasn't good for me. So that statement seems incredibly, incredibly stupid. Just had to get that out there. Let's continue.
So if you self-improve, if you say, I'm going to learn Japanese because I want to become a translator, that's good for you because you'll become a translator and make money, but it's also good for everybody who needs a translator. That's a win-win. That's how the only way you make money is to produce a win-win situation. The only way you get change to happen is to produce a win-win situation.
No, I could absolutely acquire money from taking it from someone else, and that benefits me and not the person that I that I took from, and probably causes problems for other people in a lesser state. You know, like, oh yeah, let's say that I find something. It's a Friday. I know it's payday for some people. I wait outside of a bank for someone to cash their check. They cash their check. They walk out with a fat wallet. And then, ooh, surprise, surprise. Now that wallet's mine and they have a whole bunch of new stab wounds. Yeah, I probably fucked over them. I probably fucked over their family. I probably fucked over everyone who they had debts to. I probably fucked over the local economy. I probably fucked over their employers because I've removed a good employee from the works. But hey, I have money. And if you're going to go by the logic of, well, if it's good for you, it's good for everyone else. Are we seriously going to say that robbery is good for everybody else if it's good for the person who commits it. Because, oh boy, god damn this, damn, not really the best takes in this video. Whatever, 5 minutes left, let's go.
Otherwise, you are using slavery, which is what this 15-year-old is suggesting. She may not know she's suggesting that, but she is.
Oh, yeah, and to make money, you basically have to have something of value that other people are willing to give up the results of their time and labor for. It doesn't even necessarily have to benefit them. You just have to convince them that it's worth them putting up the efforts of their time and labor. Plenty of people sell shit that is absolute hot fucking garbage and does not benefit the people. So no, you don't need it to be a win-win situation. That's how grifters and scammers work. Speaking of which, if you want to support this channel, please donate and your stuff will be read out by an AI voice on this. I did try to keep the donation tier low to encourage it, but yeah. Figured that was relevant and I haven't chilled for a while. Let's continue.
Yes. If I do something bad, like become an alcoholic, that is not only bad for me, it's bad for everybody around me. Because what'll happen is, like, I'm going to show up work drunk. And when I show up work drunk, my boss loses money. So he fires me. And because he fires me, I lose my house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move in with my sister. And when I move in with my sister, I drive home drunk every single night. I make a mess of the house. I yell at her and scream at her for not being good enough. And that's going to make her life worse. So it doesn't just make me worse, it makes everybody worse. It doesn't just make me better, it makes everybody better. And so when you have a situation like this, when you've abused a kid, and that kid obtains some type of political power, they're going to use all the tactics that you taught them in childhood.
But what about the guy providing your liquor? You are giving him money. Are you saying that you giving money to your local liquor deal is not beneficial to at least one other person? And also, where the heck are you getting the money if you don't have a job anymore? Because from the alcoholics I've known, I would not say that they have a very large amount of money set aside to continue to be alcoholics even after becoming unemployed. Don't know that many, so low sample size, but yeah, just because your shit negatively affects some people in your life doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for everybody. I mean, an addict is absolutely great for their dealer, even if they are absolutely dog shit to everyone else around them. And hey, if you have an addict on your payroll, like, maybe they ain't the best worker, but if they can't work anyone else, then you know you've got them by the balls.
As an adult, as a political force. So if what you did was teach them as a kid, if you don't obey me, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to beat you into submission. They're going to start using that as a political strategy. So like I said, her Wikipedia page says she demands these changes. If you look at her video, she basically, her saying, the video clip I played before, she's basically saying, we can't play by the rules. So that's basically saying we need to burn everything down. I'm not going to get my way, so I'm going to use violence. Where do you learn that? This is B.F. Skinner model behavior. You look at that video of they do an experiment where there's a room full of toys, and one child watches a video of a parent playing with the toys, and so they put that child in the same room. The child plays with the toys. Another child watches the parent beat the shit out of this clown, break stuff, ruin the environment, and the child does the same thing after watching that video. So it's model behavior. So if you learn behavior from your parents or authority figures when you're a kid, you're going to repeat those same behaviors when you're an adult, which really makes it important, which really makes parenting strategies important, because that's going to be your prime lesson on how to be as an adult. So it's going to be, how do my parents interact with me? How do the kids around me interact with me? And that's going to determine if you're going to be socially adequate or not. And if you're not socially adequate, you start thinking of things like what's being suggested. I'm not getting my way, so I'm going to cry and scream and attack you until you give me what I want, because I learned that from mom, in this case. Versus, here's the facts, here's the evidence. Versus the parents who create the win-win situations. So, what might happen as a kid?
Parents. Again, you're assuming both parents get influence. Maybe he's not willing to say it now, but what happens when you're raised in a single mother household? Do you necessarily get that wide variety of behavior? Or are you only going to learn how to deal with situations the same way that an adult woman deals with situations? Implications there, but he's not quite willing to say it. But he's at least explaining the mechanism behind some of it. Again, this guy, for someone who apparently studied kinesiology, has apparently looked a lot into early childhood development.
Is that you have a son and a daughter, and your son has a toy that your daughter wants. And so she says, hey, can I have that toy? And your son says no. Why would he give up the toy? He wants it. It's his. What benefit is it to him to give his sister the toy? What's she going to do for him? And so that's what he's thinking in his head, whether he can articulate that or not. We can't. He's 3 or 4 or so in this example. And so what you could do is what every parent, well, not every parent, what a lot of parents do is say, share with your sister, damn it, or I'll hit you. So they're going to learn from that situation, I can have force used against me and I will obey the force and share with my sister. Or what you could do is take the situation where your son will not share with your daughter and say, hey, daughter, I noticed that you have this toy right here. Now, my son has wanted to play with the toy that you have. How about you do this? He'll let you play with his toy, and he can play with your toy. And you trade. Now, it doesn't mean it's permanent. You're just going to trade for a couple minutes. Or for a little while. You can give it back afterwards.
And then what happens when the son says, no, I don't want to trade for my sister's toy? Like, okay, newsflash. When you are the parent, trying to have a logical, reasonable discussion with a 4-year-old is an exercise in futility, especially a 4-year-old girl. I think there's one example of Louis C.K. on his TV show trying to rationalize shit with his daughter about how she should be grateful for the stuff she has rather than focusing on the stuff she doesn't have. But in the end, he still caves to her demands. If you are going to give the daughter what she wants simply because she wants it, doesn't matter how much you try to negotiate, you have still taught that, hey, you will absolutely get what you want, and someone in a greater position of authority is going to tell you to comply, or someone in a greater position of authority, in this case, is going to help you get what you want. Because what if the son says no, then what? How are you going to enforce your decision? If he says, no, I don't want to give up my toy, I'm playing with it, I'm having fun with it, why do I have to give up what I want just because she wants it? Right? Eventually, the authority of you as a parent comes down to, I am bigger and stronger than you, and I am the one who provides you food. If you're not willing to have that ultimatum in your back pocket as a parent, then your authority crumbles and your kids start to get comfortable being violent with you. Seen it happen.
That little example has massive repercussions over time. You've just taken a situation where you could have used force and submission and instead used a win-win situation. I want this, she wants that.
Okay, no, it's not a win-win situation. The boy never, like the son, never expressed interest in the daughter's toy. You implied that. You inserted that. But no. It's like, no, this is my toy. I want to play with it. I don't want to hand it over to her. And then you're like, well, no, here, let's make it a win-win. It's like, no, I don't want what she has. Then what? But, you know, in this pulled out of your ass fucking metaphor, you aren't even going to consider that. So, Whatever, minute and a half. We're almost done.
Let's trade. That is how every adult interaction works that is successful, and you're teaching a positive message. If you had that same message go to the UN, and I personally don't agree with climate change. I hope I made that apparent. But what you could do is say, hey, there's this thing called climate change. Here's what it does. Here's the evidence. Take it or leave it. Here's how I can help. Here's what I'd like from you, and here's what I'll offer in return. It's all taught in childhood. If it's not taught in childhood, it's painstaking to learn that. It's possible to learn it as an adult, but it's painstaking. Anyway, I think I've talked quite enough about this, so thanks for listening. If you like this video, how about you give the video a little like? Let's call it a like. If you liked a little bit more than that, how about you throw a subscribe onto the channel? And maybe a comment. Maybe there's something I forgot. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe you totally disagree with what I'm saying. Tell me how much of a dumbass I am. Go ahead and do that. That's fine.
I'm pretty sure I've spent the past, 20, 40 minutes? I don't know how long it's been. But I've spent probably about as long as you spent making this video telling you all the things that you are fucking up in this video. Are you going to respond to it? Hell no, because you took this video down and deleted it. I guess there's something that you're ashamed of it in it. Is it your take, or is it how amateurish the video is? Given all the other things that you deleted off your channel, I'm willing to bet that you no longer stand by these beliefs. Thankfully, there are people who are far more involved than me willing to archive it, and then there's buggers like me who are willing to milk your deleted content for shekels. Also, yeah, Sergeant Grinch, is this going to be a long series? That entirely depends on how much chat wants me to keep doing this. I will keep doing these 3 videos at a time in 3-hour sessions for however many weeks it takes to get through the, I believe it's over 100 videos that he's downloaded. So yeah, 15 more seconds just to finish the video off here.
I'll comment back. Or maybe you want to tell me how right I am. I'm not immune to flattery, so I like that too. So like, subscribe, comment if you feel so inclined, and I will see you in the next one.
Okay, so yeah, there's episode 5. Yeah, guys, I'll keep this up as long as it seems to be interesting to chat, and given that I'm getting between 50 and 60 viewers consistently on these, if not more, yeah, I'd say chat is enjoying this content. So I'll keep this up as long as you guys like it, and we'll see where it ends. So pull up the next one real quick. And we'll take another brief intermission. And so, yeah, quick intermission, bathroom, drinks. I'll address any questions chat has, because this is technically in between segments, so it won't be cut into its own video. And then we'll get into the final video of the night. And if we somehow have enough time after that, don't even know how long we've been going. Oh, geez. 2 hours, 20 minutes. All right, yeah. We'll blaze through this one as quickly as we can, wrap it up with any final discussions, but we'll probably be going over the 3-hour mark. I don't know whether taking longer on these is a good or a bad thing, but yeah. 2-minute break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Damn, y'all spamming mushrooms here. Well, hey, I will actually eat mushrooms, so unlike yeet, those have no power over me. So yeah, let's look up in chat. So apparently some of you guys are having problems with the donation link, which I will repost just because, hey, gotta regularly shill. Let's see. Heard it won't let you convert it. I'm not entirely sure how that works in detail or what might be going wrong with it. So I'll look into it, see what I can figure out after the stream, do a little bit of tech support, but yeah, guys, if you can detail me maybe a little more on why it's not working for you, I'll see what I can do. For no reason. So, who was the gray ghost before he was a ghost? I kind of came out of ancient Aztec Kush, according to the lore that Chronic has told me. So, for all I know, I'm some kind of genie-like spirit apparition, and not necessarily based on a human. The lore is kind of vague, but any lore born out of Kush is bound to be a little bit uncertain. So, hey, make up your own lore and submit fan art of it, and who knows, maybe it will become canon. Yeah, Magical Tring is it. Don't mind it going longer. I do try to keep my stuff to a 3-hour limit, but I figure for the Red Pill Cult meetings, especially since I don't think we have anyone scheduled for after this, we can afford to go at least until we get through the third video. But I do like 3 hours as a standard streaming time. Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's Elden Ring. Yeah, so am I. Like we're gonna have some fun trying to break into the capital tomorrow. Should be neat. I really only get to play Elden Ring once a week, so I enjoy it whenever I can. Yeah. Not immune to flattery, Spider Spectre. You know what? Yeah, it's yeah, we can see he's not immune to flattery, because if you flatter him, he's more likely to promote you. Now me, I mean, I can take some criticism, but I really need someone who can actually like tear my shit apart and give some good, insightful content. I am willing to be wrong on this stuff, but I need something to grasp on it. I'm not going to be wrong just because someone says I'm wrong. You got to give me some sort of logic that I can follow and understand as to why. Aerodynamic, what's Jack Murphy's favorite animal? Probably the cuckoo bird. Probably. Alright, let's catch up on chat. Aztecs didn't have Kush. Kush is an old world drug. Hey, look, I'm just going with the lore that Chronic told me. Heck, for all we know, the ancient Aztecs were trading with the ancient Chinese. I got no clue how it all works. I'm told I came out at freaking blunt that was found in an ancient Aztec ruin. I'm going to go with that until I'm told otherwise. So for no reason, I guess, yeah, it's kind of like Casper. Don't really understand the details of where I came from. I just got the lore that's told to me secondhand. Alrighty, so we're now going to start video 6 of Think Before You Sleep's Deleted Archives. There is no plan B.
One of my goals for this YouTube channel is to spend some time correcting all of the bad advice that's been given out to my generation and maybe the 20 years before that as good advice when it's actually terrible advice. In fact, I call this stuff junk food advice. Like, junk food tastes good now, but it's terrible for you later. This advice is good. It sounds good for you now, but if you act it out long term, it ends up being awful for you. Like, this is stuff that some of this advice, if I wanted to really hurt somebody, I'd tell them these things. And one of the smaller ones is, you probably heard this: don't care what other people think about you.
Yeah. Funnily enough, on that, I was actually reading in a light novel series recently about how this one prince was actively weakening other nations by writing a book on how to be royalty effectively. And he was basically advocating for fiscal irresponsibility and having it distributed all over the continent to get the nobility to read it, thus weakening rival nations. That sounded awesome. Bit of a tangent there. We'll keep going.
Sounds great, because you might be having a bad day and something went wrong. Oh, don't care what they think. The problem with that is that you should care what people think. Now, you shouldn't be overly conscious about it. That can be self-destructive, but you should care at least some bit, because if you don't, you'll do things like you won't shower, you won't clean, you won't take care of yourself, you won't build skills. And that not only is going to be bad for you, but it's also going to be bad for the rest of society, because there's no such thing as a selfish act or a selfless act. Everything you do affects you and everybody else. That's good or bad. So if you do a bunch of bad things to yourself, you're doing a bunch of bad things to everybody else. If you do a bunch of good things to yourself, you're doing a bunch of good things for everybody else as well.
Okay, again, as was addressed in the previous segment, that's a load of horseshit. You can absolutely do stuff that only benefits you and fucks over everyone else. And you can do stuff that fucks over yourself but benefits everyone. Like, this idea that what's good for you is good for everyone else. No, that's fucking horseshit. Jordan Peterson's full of shit. Let's continue.
Second piece of advice. This is a lot more destructive. So I'm sure you've heard, you're fine the way you are. That's been if you actually pay attention to politics, that's the entire argument of the left. If I am 300 pounds overweight, I'm not going to fix myself, because it's okay to be 300 pounds overweight. I'm just as sexy and beautiful as a person as a woman who's normal weight. Or I've got borderline personality disorder. I'm not going to go to the therapist because I'm just quirky. I'm okay the way I am. Very terrible advice, because you're never okay the way you are. In fact, your happiness, if you're going to be happy, it is based on this. You have to be making gradual progress towards a goal. Now, the goal is something that you pick, but you have to be making progress towards something. And if you're going to have a goal, you're basically saying that you are insufficient until you hit the goal.
All right. Now, I don't know whether or not he's going to circle back, so I'll just give my 2 cents on this here. Don't care about what other people think of you. Again, as a blanket statement, that's bad. But that's if you are going to treat everyone else as an equal. Because do I care what someone who has mutilated their genitals, applied a shit ton of hormone blockers, and is on a whole bunch of antipsychotics and pain meds just to get through their day, do I care what that person thinks about me? Thinks about my way of life? Thinks about my thoughts? No. No, I don't. But someone who is a self-made millionaire with a strong work ethic is capable of making logical and rational decisions and has strong morals and ethics. Do I care what that person thinks about me? Well, I'd say yes. Because that person probably has a perspective that I could use to improve my current state. So, no, you shouldn't care what absolutely everyone thinks about you equally. You have to make a judgment on whose opinions you value and whose opinions you don't value. Like, for example, you guys might actually enjoy me playing Hogwarts Legacy, like, just to screw with the people who will absolutely hate me playing Hogwarts Legacy. Am I supposed to take both your opinions as equally valid? Well, no, because one group doesn't give a shit about my well-being unless I play ball by their game, and the other group has been continually supporting me for years and seems to align with my values. So, I do give a shit what you guys think. I like to think that I've done my best to cultivate the kind of people that I like and discourage people who don't align with my values from attending my channel or regularly commenting. Like, much as it would be nice to have haters for content purposes, I would prefer if most of you do actually align with my values and have similar ideals to me, because that way, if I start fucking up, I can use you guys as a metric to understand where I'm fucking up. So, ironically, the advice he's giving is probably just as bad as the advice he's refuting. But who knows? Maybe he'll get into a little more nuanced detail from this. So, like, we're only, 2 minutes in? We'll keep going.
And then when you hit the goal, you pick another one. And if you're not doing that, if you're not self-improving, if you're not constantly making your life better, you're making your life worse, because the fact of the matter is that society is always getting worse. It's always, you're just on the edge of destruction. If you sit there and stand by and do nothing, it's going to lead to destruction. So maybe it's like you're living...
Well, maybe if you absolutely despise the current society as it exists, but you also don't see any value in sacrificing yourself to accelerate its destruction, maybe sitting back and doing jack shit to aid the society is absolutely what you should be doing, because you can benefit yourself while minimizing your benefit to society. Society does not necessarily improve proportionate to how much you self-improve. We'll keep going.
With your parents, and you're playing video games all day, and you're lazy, you're one of those people who plays World of Warcraft all day, and you've become 40 years old. Now, it's been fine because you can live with your parents and they'll take care of you, but eventually they're going to die. And when they die, you find out that the house that you were living in, they were actually in debt. So what they did when they were in debt is they took the house to pay off the debt, and now you're fucked.
Oh, actually, funny anecdote that I learned this week, just kind of on that note. If you guys ever use rent to own, be very, very careful before you commit to that kind of contract. Because if you go under rent to own and the current owner dies before you own it, that house goes right to the bank and all your investment goes up in smoke. Just interesting factoid I learned at work this week from someone with more experience than me. Let's continue.
So you can't just sit there and do nothing, because life for you is always going to be getting harder. And, like the Alice in Wonderland thing, the queen, she says you need to be running as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. Life is a lot like that. Life is like those, if you've ever played Mario, it has those platforming levels that have the level push you towards the right side of the screen, so you can't stay in the same place. It constantly pushes you forward. That's what life is like, and I think that's why a level design like that works. Now, this particular piece of advice that people tend to give is not an entire negative. It's not as bad as telling people that they're fine the way they are. That's really destructive.
Having to continually move fast to reach the same position, okay, that level design doesn't work because those levels are very rare in Mario. They are meant to force a decision to prevent you from taking your time. Most levels in Super Mario Brothers, most of the most popular levels in Super Mario Brothers, are not the ones where you're under a time limit. Now, personally, I'm more familiar with Rayman Forever. That game has some levels where you are being chased either by water or a boss and you need to be constantly moving. That shit is stressful. They're not enjoyable. I do not enjoy going back to those levels or dealing with them. I prefer the levels that are a little more exploratory in nature, where I can fiddle around and take my time and move at my own pace, and I don't end up any further behind so long as I don't make any mistakes. So, do those levels work? They are a difference of experience. They provide a different challenge. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better or that they're enjoyable or that people want to play them. I don't know of anybody that would prefer one of those kinds of levels over the ones that don't apply constant pressure to your movement. The only one I can think of that even is remotely enjoyable would be the challenge maps from Rayman Origins, where you are trying to beat the level to the pace of the song playing in the background. But in that point, the challenge of it is not to try to beat the level, but to try to beat it in a stylish way, following the exact rhythm. But that's not the bread and butter of each level. Sorry for the tangent, guys. Let's keep going.
But I think this is a situation where people can have their cake and eat it too. And if you listen to people who give creative advice, that people are comedians, people are actors, people are doing the fun jobs, or even just like maybe you just want to own your own business. That's not super fun, but it's certainly better than working for a boss for some people. So even that, what often people will say is don't have a plan B. Plan A is plan B. There's only one thing you can do, and that's this. So if you're listening to like Freddie Mercury said, if you want to be a good singer, then you have to only do this.
Okay, right off the cuff, I'm going to agree with him that yes, having no plan B is terrible advice. But let's see where he's going with this.
And he's right. That's technically correct. But the problem is that a lot of people fail. Actually, not a lot. Most people fail. Even if you're starting a new business, 99% of businesses fail within like the first 5 years or something like that. It's roughly that. I think that 90% of them fail within the first 3 years, and then about the last 9% of that fail within the first 5 years or so. So the most likely situation is that you will fail. Now, of course, you'll probably have to have multiple failures before you should go. Just because your first business fails doesn't mean you can't start a new one. But at some point, enough is going to be enough. And you have to determine what that limit is. So if I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to give myself 10 years to become an actor. And if I make it in 10 years, that's great. If I don't, well, then I will move on to something else. And you don't want to make it like a year or 6 months. You want to make it a good 5 or 10 years. Because that's how long it takes to develop those skills. Like if you listen to comedians, like I've listened to the Joe Rogan podcast for maybe the past 4 or 5 years. And every time a comedian comes on, they say it took me about 7 or 8 years to become a good comedian. I've done research on bands like punk bands like AFI or like Blink-182 and stuff like that. And it took them about 5-10 years or so before they became good. The great thing about AFI, actually, if you look them up, is that they did not know how to play instruments or sing or anything before they started the band.
Okay, interesting. Because actually, it just occurred to me. So Sean, do you still hold to this idea that, because I assume that, eventually when you're done with your tangents, you're going to say why having no plan B is bad advice. Have you not gone all in on YouTubing? Because, you have shown your face. You have shown your face and given your, assumedly, real first name as a arguably manosphere content creator, and your primary work history experience is being a yoga instructor, which has a primarily female audience. Do you have a plan B for your YouTube career falling apart, which you have at this point invested a good 4 years into, built up 600k subs? Do you still stand by this? Because from an outsider's perspective, it seems like you've gone all in on the YouTuber career, and you will be absolutely fucked when this falls apart. I'm not saying if, I'm saying when. Because, quite frankly, you made one hell of a mistake going after MGTOW. You should have just left them the hell alone. Because my audience seems to be enjoying me going after you. So I'm going to milk your shit for content and drag all the shit that you don't want out into the light. And you better hope that the 500,000 plus subscribers that you've gained since you decided to acquiesce to the algorithm, yeah, you better hope that they enjoy watching you that much and that they are not the same fickle bastards that will gladly ditch you for someone else. Because I'm pretty sure that even with my numbers, which are less than a tenth of yours, I think that I've made more just on donations from this stream alone than you do during your typical stream. And hell, like, again, like, shout out to the chat. You guys fucking, you guys really make it. But considering that I'm able to pull these kinds of numbers with my relatively low subscriber count and these kinds of donos with such a small pool of an audience, you really, really have fucked up, Sean. I'll be honest, you have royally fucked up. Your decision to start streaming was a complete brand shift, and I think it was a terrible mistake. So you don't have to answer me because you owe me nothing, but at the very least, you should be honest with yourself and ask, do you have a plan B? Because I personally think you're going to need one.
And so they started from actual absolute zero. Whereas a lot of bands like Linkin Park would be a band where they already knew how to play they already knew how to create music when they started Linkin Park. It was just like, here's all the people who are good, let's create this band. That's why if you listen to the very first Linkin Park album, it's pretty good. Whereas if you listen to the first Blink-182 album or the first AFI album, it's pretty terrible. So it is good advice to tell people that they should not have a plan B, but the problem is, well, the workaround is that you can have your cake and eat it too, which is to say that these skills require so many other skills around them that you could build skill in this area that's a little bit less competitive and be a self-actualized person in that skill. So what my example would be is, let's say I am a YouTuber. Well, you're listening to me on YouTube, you're staring at the screen right now that says the title of the episode. And if I'm going to be a YouTuber, I don't just speak. Now, the primary skill is my voice. And so that's what I'm going to primarily work on. I'm going to spend
The primary skill is your voice. The primary skill is your voice. Okay, chat, seriously, I'll my voice is not great. I acknowledge that I could improve on that. But what I can improve in far more is graphic design, presentation, learning how to pace things engaged with the audience, like video editing skills for scripts, fucking creativity to create better, more original content. I mean, yeah, sure. Sean here has not really progressed much beyond having a static image. And he hasn't gotten to the point where he does script writing yet. But like, if you're going to go in as a YouTuber and you think, oh yeah, my voice is the top seller, like, dude, Sean, no one is watching you or listening to you because of the quality of your voice. The content of your speech is why people listen to you. And you have absolutely thrown those people under the bus. Well, I guess this would be 4 years ago? Yeah, like this is probably like January, maybe February of 2019, I'd say. So, yeah. No, people were not listening to you because your voice sounded amazing. People listened to you because you were saying things that made sense and they agreed with. Or maybe you were giving them logical understandings of things that they previously didn't understand. Though, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it was confirmation bias, given how much your stuff starts to fall apart under an actual critical eye. So, my voice is better than his. Well, thank you, Derek, but I do still feel that it needs some improvement. But that is beside the point. Like, you guys aren't listening to me because my voice is amazing. At least I don't think so anyway. I think that a lot of you were more listening to me because I'm able to entertain with the words that I say. I'm providing engagement with you guys in the chat, and I'm also holding discussions on topic that are actually somewhat engaging. So thank you. I do appreciate it. But yeah, we'll continue. This is one of his shorter episodes, thankfully. So less than 10 minutes to go.
Most time getting my voice as good as possible, but it's not the only thing that's there. If I can't edit a video, if I can't edit audio, this is one of the most basic things about creating YouTube is making sure that you sound good. So that I have to be able to set the mic up properly. I have to have the right type of mic. I have to use the right mic pattern. When I go into the audio editor, I have to...
Oh yeah, keep in mind, this was 3 years ago when he's talking about this, and he doesn't even have a mic stand. He's got his mic sitting on a desk in front of him, in front of the camera, blocking things out. I am not even at, what, 1/30th of his sub count? Like, what? Shit, no, I don't think I'm even at 3%. He's at 600K. I'm at about 1.5K. I'm at like 2.5% his sub count. I absolutely have a mic with a pop, like a pop protector, a fucking screen filter in front of it, set off to the side here. That is not a significant investment to get a decent mic with a pop filter and set off on a stand to the side. That's not an expensive investment. So, like, why the fuck doesn't he have a, at the very least, equivalent, if not superior, audio setup to mine 3 years afterwards, 4 years afterwards, I think, with this video, and he's currently live streaming, and he can't even get the mic out of the fucking camera's direction. Like, come on, dude. Get your shit together.
Make sure that the background noise is leveled out, is destroyed. I also have to make sure that my breathing sounds aren't too loud, because when you use a standard mic, it'll pick up your breathing sounds louder than you would hear them in person, because you're...
That is why you get an audio interface on your desktop, and you set up a gate to minimize the amount of breathing. Now, my biggest deal is that my computer is loud as fuck. But in order to deal with that, I've shoved a pillow on top of one of the fans to muffle the sounds, because my setup's not so good that I can have the PC in one room and my studio setup in another. But I guess I'll find out how much the fan's actually being picked up by the mic. But at the very least, I know that when I breathe or type, it's not being picked up by the microphone. But that's because I have Voice Meter Banana, which is free, by the way, installed. So, come on, dude. Like, I mean, I guess I'm more roasting his audio equipment setup than his ideas, but so long as you guys in chat find it entertaining, let's keep going.
Brain will naturally filter those out, to my understanding. And that's just the audio part. That does not include the video editing. That does not include the graphics. That does not include title creation. That does not include making a description. That does not include promotion. There are all these skills that you could build from making a YouTube channel. And so let's say you're not that great at editing. You're not that great at speaking. But what you do is you're very, very good at promoting your YouTube video. And that can be changed to, well, promotion and sales is one of the most useful skills you can possibly get. So maybe you suck at YouTube, but you're really good at promoting. Go become a salesman. You'll make a ton of money doing that. All the while, you were just making YouTube videos. All the while, you were having fun. You were building all these other skills. And this reminds me of an example, because I took this from a friend. I have a friend who's...
Promote your videos by being disingenuous to your audience, and gaming the algorithm. Let's be honest, Sean. Would any marketing firm hire you if you said that you had a YouTube channel that you built up to over 500,000 subs? You know what? If I'm being completely honest, there's probably some companies that would. So maybe that's your plan B. Maybe you intend to get into marketing once your YouTube stuff falls apart. And if that is the case, then you know what? You'll probably have a decent amount of success. Doesn't matter how much I might dislike you as a person, I can at the very least be objective about your odds of success in particular fields. So, you're making a valid point here. Good on you.
He worked in a private security company. And basically, I don't know what his level equivalent is, but I would guess it's like special ops or some type of a specialized force. Like, he wasn't like an infantryman. He was someone who was very specialized and skilled at what he did. And what he'd do is he'd teach survival camps. And one of the things you do with survival is you don't have unlimited carry space in your bag. You can only bring so much stuff. And so they have this statement, they have this saying that says, ounces turn into pounds, pounds turn into pain. So if you're stacking a bunch of crap you don't need in your bag, you're not going to have, well, you're either going to be in pain because you're lifting so much crap and that's going to make you less effective in the field, or you're not going to have space for the stuff that you actually need. So one of the things you do when you're packing for survival is you make sure that you only take things that have multiple uses. So I'm going to bring a knife because you can use a knife for tons of crap. I'm going to bring a rope because rope can be used for tons of crap as well. I'm going to bring fire. I'm going to bring a lighter or something like that. I'm going to bring, well, food might only have one use, but maybe I can take that can of food I took and use it as a cup for water. There we go. That's multiple uses. You want to treat your job like this because the reality is, like I said, nature is very unforgiving. Nature is constantly trying to kill you. And if you, by the way, this is why I hate communism. This is why I hate socialism. The whole communist argument is Darwinism, is that evolution is king, and communism follows the evolutionary cycle to the T.
What? Sorry, I'm going back 10 seconds just to make sure I heard that properly.
Communism. This is why I hate socialism. The whole communist argument is Darwinism, is that evolution is king, and communism follows the evolutionary cycle.
Communism is about equality. It is about making sure that the most productive people in society are rendered equal through forced redistribution to the least productive people in society. That is not Darwinism. That is not evolution. That is an artificial imposition of power by a centralized authority. Capitalism, the free market. That is what Darwinism is mimicked by. Because in capitalism, if you are highly productive, if you are useful, if you are strong, then you are able to create value, and you get to keep that value and use it for what you want. You do not get that with communism. The losers in communism are rewarded. The losers in capitalism die. And the losers in evolution are not rewarded. They also die. What the ever-loving fuck are you smoking to say that communism is parallel or follows the model of evolution or Darwinism? Holy fuck, that is a stupid take.
To the T. No, it doesn't. Because nature is a very harsh force. Nature will kill you if you get it wrong, or nature will make you suffer until you get it right. And one of the things that communism does is it gets rid of the suffering. It says, well, if you want to be
Okay, so wait. Did I mishear this again? Did I just go on a rant for no purpose? Okay, go back another 20 seconds, re-listen to that, because now it sounds like he's speaking sense. So what the hell was he on?
Evolution is king, and communism follows the evolutionary cycle to the T.
Okay. Another 20 seconds back, just to make sure, because I did go on a bit of a rant there, and then it sounds like 2 seconds later he's starting to agree with me. So, like, did I miss something here? What the heck?
Well, food might only have one use, but maybe I can take that can of food I took and use it as a cup for water. There we go. That's multiple uses. You want to treat your job like this because the reality is, like I said, nature is very unforgiving. Nature is constantly trying to kill you. And if you, by the way, this is why I hate communism. This is why I hate socialism. The whole communist argument is Darwinism, is that evolution is king, and communism follows the evolutionary cycle to the T.
Okay, so I guess he's saying that the people who support communism say that it is in line with Darwinism. Okay, so I guess we're in agreement here. I will rescind that previous roast about your take being stupid. Let's continue and get a little more context. That's my bad, chat. Like, fair's fair.
No, it doesn't. Because nature is a very harsh force. Nature will kill you if you get it wrong, or nature will make you suffer until you get it right. And one of the things that communism does is it gets rid of the suffering. It says, well, if you want to teach for a government school or a private industry school, it's a lot harder to teach for a private school than it is a government school, because the private school actually has to produce a profit. The government schools take the money, so they don't have to actually sit there and impress customers. Which means the private school teacher is going to be a lot more qualified because they have to deal with the pressures of nature, whereas the public school teacher, it does not have to deal with the pressures of nature. So some of them might turn out okay, but most of the public school teachers are going to be pretty terrible, as for my experience in that case, which I'm sure mimics the experience of a lot of people. So what you want to do is to beat this force of nature is take your original skill, whatever it is. Again, like it could be a salesperson, it could be a business owner, it could be some creative field, especially if you're doing a creative venture. Those are the most risky jobs you can take. They have the highest reward, but they're the most risk. You're going to build up tons of other skills. So I'm a YouTuber who edits audio, who edits video, who can promote a video.
If you could call what you're currently doing editing video, you are literally ranting in front of a single blank screen. Like, I'm pretty sure that, my first YouTube video that I ever put out long before I was on YouTube and when I was way younger than you was a fucking anime mashup with a trailer. I basically put anime footage over a movie trailer at a time. And I guarantee you, I put a shit ton more effort into the video editing than you ranting over a single title screen. So calling what you're currently doing video editing, that is being extremely generous. But I'll admit, in your future videos, you do improve in this regard. So we'll just continue. 5 minutes left.
Who can speak. Speaking is a useful skill that you can use elsewhere. If I need to team build, if I need to leadership build and stuff like that, I can use the speaking skills that I got from YouTube. And if you think of it that way, there's never really any failure. Any sort of thing you put your effort into is going to have some type of success elsewhere. Like I'm a yoga teacher, and I used to have a yoga channel on YouTube, which failed. Now, even though that yoga channel failed, I learned.
Dude, if you want to be a successful yoga teacher on YouTube, you have to A, be a woman, and B, be naked. This is what market research is for.
Most of the editing skills I use now in these videos from the yoga channel, which is not that much, but it's better than zero because it took a long time to figure out how to do some of this stuff. So it's great that I can.
Oh, and also not having seen your yoga channel, maybe you did more video editing with your yoga channel. At least I would assume that you did. But I can't judge you by your yoga channel because, well, that shit wasn't Big Tower Manosphere, so it wasn't archived. And I'm sure that you might have deleted that off, but at the very least, I'm sure that you're not going to give it out because, for all I know, that reveals your actual real name. And I'm not too interested in doxing you. Even if I knew, I don't think I'd say it because, like, what's the bloody point? I'm here to argue against your ideas, not who you are.
Transfers this skill over, and then I don't start at 0, but I start at like 10. 10's not 100, but 10's certainly way better than 0. And so I learned a lot from that channel, even just in the editing part, and I learned how to... One of the things I wasn't doing when I was speaking in front of a crowd is I wasn't moving my hands. And I could very easily see that in the videos that I was teaching for yoga. In fact, you can't see it because I don't have video, but I'm moving my hands quite a lot right now because you speak differently when you show nonverbal language.
I mean, okay, guys, you can't see it because I'm using an avatar, but right now I have 2 fingers pressed up against my right temple as I lean in closer towards the mic, just to show how fucking tired I am with this bloody argument. It's like, okay, yeah, you got the video editing skills theoretically, which we can't see, but you totally have them. And you're gonna tell me that, like, you kept your video editing skills. Meanwhile, your successor follow-up channel literally just has you ranting over a black screen. The only time you've even changed, well, okay, not a black screen. You did create some white text with a blue outline on a black screen with your channel title over top of it. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're going to brag about your acquisition of video editing skills, you might have wanted to feature such a thing in a video that shows off your video editing skills. Just, heck, I know the advice is far too late, and it's only going to be a while for now before you go to Sandman and ask for some critique and advice, and he tells you to actually script your bloody videos rather than flying them off the cuff. So, this is something that future you is going to realize and deal with. But present you, talking about how you have a wide variety of skills when at most you have some fairly mediocre graphic design skills, i.e. you can center text and put it on a black screen and give it a stroke outline. So I assume you have a basic knowledge of Photoshop. But, don't brag about shit unless you're actually displaying it, because right now all you've shown is that you can make a title card and you can render it into 1920 by 1080p format. At least I assume this is 1920 by 1080. It's been a while. I don't know the original resolution. And that you can rant off the cuff about a random topic, and I'll be honest, not really too impressed with your off the cuff rants either. So let me put it this way. If you were to use this as an audition for the warband, yeah, like, you'd be hard pressed to get in. Like, you might be up to Chronic at the end of the day, but considering the resume that Ribby had to bring in, by showing that he ain't a bitch and showing off his abs, or that I had to be doing collab streams, like, to get an actual demand before I even considered seriously applying, like, this is not exactly the kind of resume that I'd look at and go, oh yeah, this is a worthy investment. I want to put money towards this. But I've been tangenting on this rant long enough. 4 minutes to go. 4-0 raise and comment as block. I have like mid-level blocks on my basic comments, so yeah, I don't allow absolutely everything in because you never know who's going to pop in and start messing with stuff. So sorry guys, I don't actively control a bunch of it. We'll see whether or not some settings need to be dealt with. Let's continue.
It kind of opens you up more. So in that case, I failed miserably at having a yoga channel on YouTube, but I learned so much in the process that I can transfer some of that skill over to this channel, and I can transfer it over to my actual job, and I can transfer over it to just being a public speaker in general, anywhere where I need to be a public speaker. That's what you want.
Yes, because public speaking is what brings in a whole bunch of money. Not that public speakers are primarily people with a shit ton of influence who get handed a whole bunch of money for money laundering. No, it is purely due to the quality of their speech. Although even as I say that sarcastically, then I look at, the CME, Cucking Made Easy conference, as like, well, people do pay a whole bunch of money to apparently see a whole bunch of people speak shit that is basic common sense. So, I don't know, sucker born every minute or something.
That's how you avoid destruction. That's how you, like, I was just listening to this story where this guy was 34 and he was an artist and he was a failed artist, but art was his only skill. Now imagine that you're 34, all you can do is art, and you're going to have to retrain. And because he wasn't a successful artist, he might have to retrain to something he's not qualified for to do at all. He might have to go and become a welder or something like that, which is a completely different skill and it requires talent.
Okay, look, as someone who has dabbled in welding, depending on your skill as an artist, being able to have fine motor control skills for your hand and an attention to detail with your eyes, of the trade skills, I'd actually think that welding would be one that is highly compatible with people who have an artistic background. Now, you didn't say what kind of artistic field this guy was skilled in, but if he was good at drawing or painting and had fine motor control skills, I'd actually think that welding would be a good trade to branch into. Just my 2 cents.
Otherwise, he's going to meet destruction. He's going to eventually be kicked out of his parents' home, and his parents are going to be dead or something like that, and he's going to have to stand on his own. Better to do that now at 34. Preferably better to do that at 20 years old than to do it at 55 years old when at that point you're basically screwed. You're going to be on government benefits if they still exist at that point, if that is your strategy. So that's kind of all I have to say about this. If you want to have your cake and eat it, find things that you can do. Don't just learn the actual skill. Learn everything you can around that skill, everything that's required. So if I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to learn how to record stuff. I'm going to learn how to isolate sound. I'm going to learn how to work with tracks. I'm going to learn how to draw and make the graphics. Like Freddie Mercury for Queen, he drew the first Queen logo. He was a fairly talented artist. He was a very talented recording artist and stuff like that. So there were many things that Freddie Mercury could have done if Queen didn't work out. Be that person. Oh, by the way, a lot of these people who say there's no plan B, they also conveniently have multiple skills. So like Stéphane Molyneux is a famous philosopher on YouTube. He was a computer programmer before he was a philosopher on YouTube. So if his YouTube channel failed, if he wasn't a success that he was today, he could have just gone back to that. Joe Rogan had, he's a martial artist. He was a car guy. He was an artist. So all these people do, and that's probably why they succeeded. Maybe they aren't able to articulate it, but all these people that seem to be super successful, even if you just look at the members of Queen, every single Queen band member had another skill they could have done outside of the band. That was something that they were highly interested in. And if you're highly interested in it, it's like it's not even work. So it's like I may be someone who does YouTube, but I'm also really interested in electronics. And so I'm interested in maybe electrical wiring. So if I fail at YouTube, I've had so much time where it's just, I'm spending my free time learning how electronics work. I can just go and do that as a sub thing. Because I can only do so much YouTube. I can only spend so much focus on my main skill. So if I can kind of relax and do something that's also productive, that's also a plan. Actually, learn how to use electrical wires. This is probably a bad example. Learning how to use electrical wires is not a good example of that. But if I have some other side skill that I can work on that's not as frustrating as my main skill that I can use to kind of hit the side while I'm recovering from the stress of the main skill, the stress of being a YouTuber, the stress of being a singer, the stress of being a business owner, then I'm only going to be that more powerful. I'm only going to be that much more indestructible if the thing fails. And in that case, you don't take failure as a failure, you take failure as a success. Because everything you really put your heart in, everything you really put your effort into, there's no failure in doing that. You're always going to be left with something that's useful for some other skill, and so you're only going to fail so many times before you actually succeed.
I mean, not terrible advice at this point, but, just honestly no real negative commentary here. I'm just breaking up the space so that I'm not just letting him talk and milking the content. But no, he's fairly accurate. You should try to learn all the skills relevant to whatever employment you have, because yeah, you never know when your job's going to fail, and not necessarily because you fail. It could also be just because wherever you're employed closes up due to a shitty environment and you need to branch into a tangential field. It can happen. 30 seconds, guys.
So that's my thought on that. Have your cake and eat it too. Don't just build single skills, build multiple skills that relate to the same goal. That way you can reuse them should you fail. If you succeed, well, then you succeeded. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. If you have more to add to the discussion, how about you throw something in the comment section? Other than that, I will see you in the next video, and goodbye.
And as I'm going to mention at the end of each of these segments, Sean has since deleted these videos off of the internet, so commenting, liking is currently impossible for these videos in particular. This is the closest you're going to get to be able to do that, so it is what it is. I've given my 2 cents on the matter anyway. And I'd appreciate your like and subscribe, but I ain't going to force you to do it. Only if you like the content. But anyway, so there we have it. That was the 3rd video of the night. We are... How far are we into this stream? Yeah, we're 3 hours, 12 minutes in. So, one more quick intermission, guys. Then we'll take some final questions, any last things that the chat wants to comment, and then we'll wrap up for the night. So, see you in a couple minutes, guys. Be right back. All right, and we're back, and we'll just get the blinding visual off the screen there, and let's put up something a little more pleasant. There. Enjoy some waifu abs on a bed, just as we wrap things up. Some random guy. You think before we sleep, we'll go back to how he was before Burpee Venti. Honestly, no. Because back when he was before, this was not something that just came out of left field. He has been continually shifting his message in order to maximize the YouTube algorithm. He's been really banking on YouTube ad revenue to be his primary source of income for a while now. Because, well, he deleted his MGTOW videos. He converted the names of his MGTOW stuff. He stepped away from the MGTOW label. He might say that it was for personal reasons, or he started to disagree with the ideology, or the one that I heard, which sounded like the most bullshit, was that some people were saying bullshit things on the MGTOW subreddit and that made him uncomfortable and want to distance himself. Like, quite frankly, if you're using the MGTOW subreddit as your metric for the MGTOW philosophy as a whole, then you're a fool. Straight up. So, now, could he turn back towards this kind of stuff that we're reviewing right now? Maybe he could, but he didn't build his audience off of this stuff. He deleted these things for a reason. Either they didn't align with the audience he was trying to cultivate, or they were actively hurting him in the algorithm. So, no, I think that he has probably hit the peak of what he can. That he has switched up his formula means that what he has been doing is no longer giving him the results he wants. And he thinks that switching over to doing amateur level streams is a good idea. So, yeah, I guess in short, no, he's not going to go back to who he was, because he's not going to accept a 90% reduction in his channel. And even assuming that he went back to the levels before he ditched the MGTOW label, like, everyone in this sort of group, at the very least, I would think by now, has at least some inkling as to how much of a sellout he is. Like, if he is not able to make a career out of his conversion to whatever the fuck he's become alongside being Brittany Venti's boyfriend, he's fucked. Like, his channel is either going to completely maintain a new brand from here on out, or it is dead. That's how I personally see it. Don't know how much that's accurate, but that's my 2 cents on the matter. Jen Powder, is gray gender fluid? No, I do not identify as a woman, but I will absolutely create a silver-haired, purple-skinned tomboy waifu to show off, because I recognize that the female form is far more aesthetically pleasing to the male form. So why the hell not? I mean, I could put some shirtless, muscular Bara art up, but I don't really think that many of you would find that pleasing to your eyes. Like, most of my audience is straight men, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could experiment and try a whole bunch of shirtless Bara art of my male avatar. I just don't think it'd draw in the same kind of crowd. Let's see. Yeah, proof he's following the herd and slowly we're learning which herd, Spider Spectre. Yeah, like, he goes wherever his channel growth leads him, and well, let's be honest, if you're going to do some of the more pure is the best word I have for it, but if you're going to do like more pure or hardcore manosphere content, your channel growth is fairly limited. I don't think there's anyone who puts the MGTOW label in their stuff who has hit like 1 million subs. Like, and heck, amongst warbanders, Ribby's the only one who ever hit 100K, and his channel got nuked over something completely bullshit and trivial. DJ Jaggy's gonna get roasted in his streams. Well, God, like, let's be honest. If half of your stream is roasting you, you're kind of boned to begin with. I'd be curious to know exactly what was the exact ratio during that one stream I actually attended. How many people were roasting him and how many people were there for him. I guess I'd have to see the numbers on some of his latest streams, because if you can only get to 1,000 when half the audience is roasting you, you're doing pretty bad. It's okay to be gay for great. Hey, look, the tomboy waifu, like, that's just the female form, guys. I mean, is liking female art done by a male artist gay? I mean, I certainly hope not. Otherwise, I got a lot of questions about my own sexuality. And besides, hey, it was created by a bloody fucking AI. So AIs are gender neutral. So that's another thing entirely. Just remember, so he's basically a clout chaser. Yeah, like he's looking to make YouTube his career. He was focusing on evergreen content and ad revenue for a long time. And then recently, he's been convinced to try streaming, which I remember a couple of years back, Coach Greg Adams straight up said that he gets more money from ad revenue from streams. Well, not from ad revenue. He gets more money from streams and stream donations than he does from ad revenue. And that's why he focused so hard on streaming more frequently than putting out regular content. So I'm willing to bet that the pivot to streaming, while it may or may not have been a direct result of Brittany Venti's influence, I believe that it was a pivot in order to try and earn more money. Whether or not it's successful, I don't know. From the witnessing that I had in the one stream, considering a good chunk of his super chat donations were people roasting him, I wouldn't be more surprised if I have earned more in this stream alone from donations than he has earned in a stream. And I've got, 1/10 his audience here. I think I saw like 0.2 or 0.3% of his subs. As we've seen from Hammer, like Hammerhand is probably the proof that your sub count does not directly scale with the amount you can make during a live stream. Kelton, not glad I never became a content creator. I guess it skipped my generation. Honestly, I was very hesitant initially to become a content creator because I've seen what happens to content creators. Like, I don't know how many of you guys saw like Channel Awesome back in the day, like early to mid 2000s. Like, I used to be a fan of Spoonie's content, and watching his steady descent into insanity, that was pretty troubling. So I don't necessarily want to become a super famous content creator. Like, just being able to chat with you guys here, and heck, there's still 43 of you hanging around even after the main roasting is done at 10:30 on a Saturday night. But I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll go for a couple more minutes. We'll go for 8 more minutes, make it a good 3-hour, 30-minute stream, and then we'll sign off. Yeah, with Streamlabs not working. Yeah, admittedly, I'm going to have to figure out what the deal is with Streamlabs, whether it limits who can donate, because I don't know what's going on, but we'll keep messing with it. Though I am very happy that I put the text-to-speech in option, because unlike Sean, I think that, yeah, you pay money to get your message on, I should hear it. Cussing me out, making fun of me, saying something supportive, whatever. You pay the money, let the audience speak. Yeah, other people having problems with Streamlabs. Yeah, anyone who's having problems, if you have me on Discord, if you can DM me with the specific details of the problem, maybe I can figure out what's going on. But I honestly don't know what's up. So yeah, I can't say, guys, and I don't know how to do the tech support from here. So I guess that's why YouTube Super Chat is so popular. Which, funnily enough, I was looking today to see what the requirements for monetization is. Apparently it's 4,000 hours over the course of a year of viewing, plus 1,000 subs. So I might actually qualify for monetization soon. Whether or not I get it is another matter. But for all I know, I could be the third member of the warband to actually get monetized. We'll see how it works. Random guy, what if someone super chats something that would ban your channel? Does it still read it? I have not tested that. It might. I don't know. I don't know what the restrictions on Streamlabs are. If anyone wants to try dropping the gamer word into Streamlabs right now, well, I'll admit I'd have to trim the live stream to cut that out. But maybe it'd work. I guess I'd probably have to trim or drop or blank out the stream if that did happen. I don't know. Good question though. Something to consider for the future. Let's see. Yeah, Kelton. Hey, if you enjoy the roast and you're willing to spend some time commenting here, then by all means, because let's be honest, there's a lot of content creators here, and it does require a significant time commitment to become one. It's not something that I necessarily recommend to anyone. I kind of got peer pressured into it just because I kept showing up on Yeetus' streams and people kept asking when I'm going to make a channel. So eventually I just made a channel, submitted an application to the warband, and here I am. Yeah, Frost, it might happen midstream, but at the very least, if something like that does happen, I could just mute and blur it at the time. It'll be a pain in the butt, but I'm just going to hold out until it becomes a problem. And when it does happen, maybe I'll just raise the amount on the text-to-speech input. If people want to try to bugger up my channel, make them pay more for it. Waifu needs a label under the bra. If I actually get some proper official artwork of her instead of just using AI to generate a series of avatars, wouldn't be against that. It's an idea. Yeah, for Oswald, let's be honest. The reason that your channels get yeeted so many times is because you do not hold anything back when you talk. All right, guys, we are at about the 2 hours, 30 minutes mark. I think I heard that Chronic might be streaming later. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Still 40 of y'all in the chat. This has been good. I'm not sure when I'll do another one of these, but I'll try to make it at least 2 per week since they seem to be popular. And I do want to try to work my way through these videos on a somewhat reasonable time scale. So, peace out, Warband. We're headed to the signing off music, and maybe I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good night. Elden Ring tomorrow.
resurrected, exodus